divine and mysterious immortality, I start my cultivation by adding points as a butcher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 676. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Wei Hong smiled and didn't care. Zhu Ming, however, frowned and said, "Everyone, we don't look at each other's cultivation level when we get to know each other. Besides, most of you here are in the early stage of foundation building. Fellow Taoist Wei has just made a breakthrough not long ago. What's so strange about this?" Wei Hong was brought here by him. Seeing that someone looked down on Wei Hong because of his cultivation level, Zhu Ming was naturally unhappy and immediately said something. Especially Lin Yinping's words, "No one is stupid," and naturally they can hear what it means, so Zhu Ming looked at Lin Yinping with a hint of displeasure. Lin Yinping didn't care at all, and just smiled harmlessly. At this time, Shen Qi next to him said to Zhu Ming, "Fellow Taoist Zhu, you were late just now. We were just talking about fellow Taoist you wanting to spar with fellow Taoist Du." "Haha, you interrupted their sparring. The fellow Taoist Yi and fellow Taoist Du mentioned by Shen Qi are actually Yi Ji and Du Dong. Yi Ji is a member of the Kangxin Guard, and Du Dong is the deacon of the punishment hall. The tasks they are responsible for are not ordinary, and they often spar with each other." Shen Qi said this to smooth things over. Sure enough, upon hearing this, Zhu Ming smiled and asked, "Oh? Taoist fellow Yi and Taoist fellow Du are preparing to spar? Haha, that's Zhu's fault. Come on, please come in, I must watch." However, the dark-skinned man named Du Dong shook his head and waved his hands, saying, "No more fighting. Taoist fellow Yi often fights with monsters, and has much more experience in fighting than Du. Du is naturally not his opponent. Haha, Taoist fellow Du is too modest. You and Taoist fellow Yi are the top 3 among us in terms of cultivation and combat power. Zhu can't even compare with him." Zhu Ming laughed, obviously knowing Yi Ji and Du Dong very well. Yi Ji just smiled faintly. Since Du Dong didn't want to spar, he naturally didn't say much, so the scene became quiet again. Just when it came to the word sparring, Wei Hong's heart moved. "I don't know what my current strength is, but I might as well spar with others to see what level I have reached," Wei Hong thought secretly. So, when the scene just quieted down, he immediately chuckled and said, "Haha, speaking of sparring, I just broke through not long ago, and I haven't communicated with you fellow Taoists yet. Today is a rare opportunity, and I would like to spar with you. I wonder which Taoist fellow Taoist is willing to teach me a thing or two." After saying that, he stood up directly, and then looked around with a look of asking for advice, and his meaning was self-evident. He came to this party to test his strength, and now it was just right to find someone to spar with. Seeing Wei Hong's fearless appearance, everyone present, including Zhu Ming, was a little stunned. "Hey, Taoist fellow Wei, you are a newcomer, and you have only broken through to the foundation building stage for 2 or 3 years. Isn't it too early to find someone to spar with now?" After Zhu Ming was stunned for a while, he immediately dissuaded him implicitly. However, Wei Hong smiled and said, "Don't worry, fellow Taoist Zhu. Since we are sparring, we will naturally stop when we reach the limit. Even if I lose, my life will not be in danger. What do you think?" He looked around again, wanting to see if anyone would come forward to spar with him. When Wei Hong first came in, he sensed that except for Yi Ji and Du Dong, who were at the 4th level of foundation building, the rest of the deacons were mostly between the 2nd and 3rd levels of foundation building, and most of them were at the 2nd level. In his opinion, since they were all at the early stage of foundation building, the deacons in front of him would naturally not be his opponents. It all depended on how much strength they could force him to show. Seeing Wei Hong's continuous invitations, one of the young men named Guji stood up and chuckled, "Since fellow Taoist Wei is interested in a fight, how about letting Guji have a try?" This young man named Guji's cultivation realm is the 2nd level of foundation building. According to Zhu Ming's introduction, this person is in charge of a spiritual medicine garden and usually communicates with Zhu Ming and others. However, Wei Hong didn't know that this person actually had some interest in Lin Yinping, a female cultivator. Therefore, after Wei Hong expressed his desire to fight, he immediately stood up, fearing that he would miss this opportunity to show off. Wei Hong naturally would not refuse, and immediately nodded and smiled, "So it's fellow Taoist Gu, Of course you can, please. Please. Guji stood in front of Wei Hong with a serious look. Seeing that the two were about to start fighting, the more than 10 deacons around them retreated a long distance with different expressions, leaving the large area in the center of the side hall to the two people who were fighting, and they watched the fight on the side. Before the fight began, the more than 10 deacons around had different reactions. Zuming and Shen Qi frowned slightly, not understanding why Wei Hong suddenly asked for a fight, but at the same time they were also worried that Wei Hong would lose to Guji, and then Lin Yinping and others would look down on him even more. Lin Yinping and others were either a little disdainful or thought that Wei Hong was just trying to attract attention. In their opinion, Wei Hong had just broken through to the foundation building stage for only 2 or 3 years, so how could he be Guji's opponent? Obviously, none of them took Wei Hong, a newcomer at the first level of foundation building, seriously. Even Guji himself thought so, and was already thinking about whether he should make Wei Hong lose too embarrassingly. However, Wei Hong said at this time, "Fellow Taoist Gu, can we start?" He looked indifferent, not affected at all. Guji was affected by his indifferent aura, and his expression immediately straightened up, and he nodded solemnly, "Of course." "Well, please be careful, fellow Taoist Gu." After that, Wei Hong immediately made a hand gesture. The next moment, more than 10 fireballs appeared in the air, and then he waved his hand, and those fireballs fell towards Guji. Since it was a competition, and it was indoors, the two sides would naturally not use spiritual weapons, but would use magic to decide the winner as much as possible. The fireball spell was just a test by Wei Hong. Sure enough, before the fireball fell, Guji immediately cast a water dragon spell, flew up to meet the fireball, and directly extinguished the more than 10 fireballs. Wei Hong didn't care at all, and took advantage of Guji's casting to directly point his finger. Puff! A thick green vine like a dragon appeared out of thin air, and then immediately turned into a soft giant python, and actually went directly to Guji, as if to trap him. How could it be so fast? Guji's face changed. He didn't expect Wei Hong's casting speed to be so fast. He hurriedly urged his spiritual power and quickly formed a layer of yellow armor like rock outside his body to protect himself firmly. Guji only had time to do this layer of protection, and the dragon-like green vine had already wrapped around him. Guji had no way to avoid it, hoping that his rock armor could block the green vine. Crunch! The dragon-like green vines directly entangled Guji like a giant python, and the yellow armor on his body also made a sound of being overwhelmed by the huge force of the green vines. Chapter 677 Defeat the enemy, be strong. In the side hall. None of the more than 10 deacons present expected that after the competition began, it was Guji who quickly fell behind. Guji himself did not expect Wei Hong's casting speed to be so fast, and he was forced to be beaten. Moreover, he was now directly trapped by the dragon green ivy technique, and it would not be so easy to get out. Thinking of this, Guji no longer held back, gritted his teeth, and suddenly urged the spiritual power in his body. Buzz! A 3-foot-long ice blade condensed in an instant and chopped down fiercely at the green vine outside the armor. Ling! But when the ice blade chopped on the green vine, it was like chopped on an iron wall, making a dull sound, and the ice blade was directly bounced out. How can it be so hard? How can the dragon green ivy technique he cast be so hard? Guji was slightly stunned, and an incredible look appeared on his face. It's not like he had never seen the dragon green ivy technique before, and he had used ice blades to cut off green vines before, but the dragon green ivy technique that Wei Hong used now seemed different. The seemingly weak green vines were incomparably hard. However, before Guji could use his skills again, his face suddenly changed. This was because above his head, a flame-slashing knife more than 10 feet long had already condensed into shape. It was Wei Hong's golden flame slash. While Guji was trapped, Wei Hong condensed the golden flame slash. Moreover, he only used 1/3 of his combat power this time with Guji, and deliberately slowed down when performing the golden flame slash. He also deliberately restrained most of the power of the golden flame slash to avoid it being too terrifying. The appearance of this golden flame slash alone was enough to make Guji feel a great threat. He believed that it was difficult to resist with his rock armor technique. Wei Hong's face was indifferent, and he uttered a word, "Cut." The next moment, the golden flame slash fell fiercely towards Guji. At the same time, the dragon green vine suddenly contracted. Guji's face changed drastically, and he no longer had any hope. He didn't care about his face anymore, and hurriedly shouted, "I admit defeat, Wei Daoyao, I admit defeat." He was afraid that if he was a little slower, the golden flame slash would fall directly, and it would be difficult for him to be safe and sound. Compared with himself, face is naturally nothing. Concentrate. After hearing Guji's surrender, Wei Hong immediately stretched out his hand and pointed. The golden flame slash hovered steadily above Guji's head, only 3 feet away from his head. Disperse. Wei Hong pinched his hands and waved his hands violently. The golden flame slash instantly turned into spiritual energy and dissipated in the air, and the green vine disappeared directly. Huh? Guji let out a long sigh. Although his face looked ugly, he dared not look down on Wei Hong anymore. He immediately bowed and said, "Thank you for holding back, Brother Wei. I am not as skilled as you. I am ashamed." He himself did not expect that he would lose to a newcomer like Wei Hong, who was at the first level of foundation building. But the fact is the fact. No matter how thick-skinned Guji was, he was embarrassed to deny it in front of so many people. He simply became more generous. And Wei Hong was not proud at all. He immediately waved his hands and smiled. "No, no, no, it's just a little bit of sparring. It doesn't mean anything. I will ask Brother Gu for more advice in the future." The sedan chair was carried by people. Since his goal had been achieved, he would naturally not appear to be arrogant. As expected, after hearing Wei Hong's humble words, Guji's face immediately looked better. He immediately said, "I don't deserve your advice. It is also my honor to communicate with Brother Wei." "Haha, communicate with each other, communicate with each other." Wei Hong laughed. At this time, seeing that the two had finished their competition, Zuming and others gathered around again. Zuming was very surprised and said, "Daoya Wei, I didn't expect your strength to be so strong. You have been hiding it from me for a long time." "Daoya Zhu, you are joking. What can I say about my insignificant strength? It's nothing at all." Wei Hong hurriedly said modestly. Yes, Daoya Wei can actually defeat Daoya Gu. It's really amazing. Daoya Wei really broke through the foundation building in just 2 or 3 years? This is amazing. Daoya Wei's casting speed is so fast. It seems that his attainments in magic are very profound. That's right, Daoya Wei, we must communicate more in the future. After zooming, the other 10 or so deacons also gathered around with smiles. At this moment, the attitudes of these deacons were very different from before. Not only did they seem much warmer, but even the smiles on their faces looked very sincere. Obviously, Wei Hong, a newcomer at the first level of foundation building, was able to quickly defeat Guji, a second-level foundation building, in a competition. This gave them a great shock, and they saw it with their own eyes, which was more convincing than any rumor. Therefore, this fact also let the outer door deacons present know that Wei Hong should not be underestimated, and his strength is even more impressive, and he is very worthy of making friends. In this way, these deacons naturally did not dare to despise Wei Hong anymore, so they all wanted to make friends with him, as if the people who looked down on Wei Hong just now were not them. Especially the female cultivator Lin Yinping, who was smiling at this time, did not mention what happened just now, but wanted to chat with Wei Hong. Wei Hong naturally talked about those things just now in a bad mood, and at this time he also smiled and communicated with everyone. When someone asked about his strength, he only said that he had practiced hard in magic, and did not say anything else. Everyone did not ask too much, after all, it involved other people's secrets. After this battle, Wei Hong already knew what level his strength was at. Take Guji, who was at the second level of foundation building, for example. He only used 30% of his combat power to easily defeat him. Moreover, the power of the spells he cast with 30% of his combat power was already extremely amazing. If he used his full combat power, it would be no problem for him to fight against a cultivator at the 6th level of foundation building. The cultivators below the 6th level of foundation building would be quickly defeated by him. Such a strength is extremely terrifying for a cultivator at the 2nd level of foundation building. Even if he defeated a cultivator at the 2nd level of foundation building with his 1st level of foundation building cultivation, it was enough to shock the people present. If they knew that Wei Hong only used 30% of his combat power, they would be shocked. Wei Hong continued to keep a low profile and humbly communicated with other deacons for a while. After they got to know each other, he left the side hall with Zuming. However, he didn't know that shortly after he left, The more than 10 deacons who witnessed the competition process spread the news one after another, so that Wei Hong's name gradually became famous among many deacons. At one time, more deacons began to want to make friends with Wei Hong, and he attracted the attention of many people. Many people wanted to know this newcomer who defeated a cultivator at the second level of foundation building with a cultivation of the first level of foundation building. Wei Hong knew nothing about this at the moment. After leaving the side hall, he wandered around with Zhu Ming again. After finding that he had not gained anything, he said goodbye and returned to the spiritual plant garden. Chapter 678, A Sudden Increase in Strength. Spiritual Plant Garden Number 7. Independent Courtyard. Wei Hong did not stay in the secret room at this time, but came to the courtyard. In front of him, there was a cylinder made of fine iron. The cylinder was about 3 feet high and 1 foot in diameter. The surface was black and looked very hard. Wei Hong pinched his hands and urged the spiritual power in his body to flow to his right hand. At this time, a green sword light emerged directly from the fingertips of his right hand and quickly stretched to more than 3 feet long. The green light on the sword light was flowing unsteadily, and the sword energy was drawn but not released, which seemed to contain extremely good power. This spell was the green sword light attached to the green sword art. The green sword art that Wei Hong mainly practiced came with a total of 3 spells, among which the green sword light was the only spell he could practice at present. After he maxed out the first level of the skills to the limit, the green sword light was naturally cultivated by him. Moreover, he later upgraded a magic attached to this main cultivation method to the limit, which improved the power of this magic. Go! Wei Hong flicked his right hand lightly, and the green sword light flew out in an instant. Bang! The next moment, the fine iron column in front of him was cut into 2 halves silently, and then the upper half fell to the ground with a muffled sound. However, the green sword light continued to move forward, until it split the ground into a large pit more than 10 feet deep and then disappeared. Not bad, not bad. In terms of power, the green sword light is stronger than the golden flame slash, and it can be cast instantly, and ordinary people can't resist it at all. Looking at the deep pit on the ground, Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction. The power of the green sword light once again enriched his means of attack, and this was not the maximum power of the green sword light. When it was fully exerted, this green sword light could reach more than 10 feet long, and ordinary second-level medium-grade defensive spiritual weapons would find it difficult to resist. The most important thing is that the green sword light can be released instantly, which greatly enriches Wei Hong's tactical space, and it is difficult for the enemy to react. Now Wei Hong's strength is 2 points stronger than before attending the deacon meeting, which makes him look forward to the next 2 spells attached to the main cultivation method. It's almost time to harvest the spiritual rice. Let's go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss after harvesting the spiritual rice. Wei Hong swept the broken iron cylinder aside and made a decision in his heart. Half a month later, he flew out of the valley again. After leaving the valley, he flew straight towards the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. This time, he was still going to continue hunting the snake monsters in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss according to the previous plan. After half a day, Wei Hong came to the mountain where he had observed the 10,000 Snakes Abyss before. Hey, what happened? Wei Hong just stood on the hillside and saw that a large number of snake monsters in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss were swimming around, which seemed a little irritable compared to before, but there were no other monsters or cultivators in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. He frowned and observed for a long time, and found that the snake monsters were just a little irritable, but there were no other abnormal behaviors, so he was relieved. So Wei Hong immediately found a suitable position for setting up the formation more than 10 miles away from the edge of the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. He took out a set of formation plates and formation flags, and quickly set up the Wind Flame Dragon Fierce formation. Then, according to his previous habits, he set up another formation to cover the breath and spiritual fluctuations 5 miles away, and then Wei Hong head directly in the formation, and then waved his hand and took out 2 paper figures. After the 2 paper figures appeared, they immediately moved quickly and quietly towards the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. The paper figures soon reached the edge of the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, and then one of the paper figures began to enter the 10,000 Snakes Abyss under Wei Hong's control, and slowly approached one of the green poisonous pythons, and then let the paper figure use the flying sword to stab the green poisonous python fiercely. As expected, the first level flying sword was directly bounced out. But just as Wei Hong expected, the green poisonous python directly placed its hatred on the paper man, Hiss. The green poisonous python immediately hissed angrily, staring at the paperman and swimming wildly towards the paperman. The paperman immediately turned around and fled, without any intention of fighting. The green poisonous python didn't think much about it, and chased after the paperman. Then, just like before, the green poisonous python quickly fell into the trap under the attraction of the paperman. Go. Seeing the green poisonous python fall into the trap, Wei Hong waved his hand again, took out 3 more papermen, and controlled the 3 papermen to join in the siege and killing of the green poisonous python. After the paperman technique was raised to the limit, the number of papermen he could control increased to 5. And the control range of the papermen was also increased to about 20 miles, which was definitely a qualitative improvement for his hunting plan. Soon, the 5 papermen surrounded the green poisonous python in the formation. Under Wei Hong's control, the 5 paper figures controlled a first-grade upper-grade flying sword and immediately stabbed at the trapped green poisonous python at an extremely fast speed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 5 flying swords were like lightning and stabbed directly into the body of the green poisonous python. This time, with a blessing of spiritual power, even the first-grade upper-grade sword was enough to break the defense. The 5 flying swords pierced into the body of the green poisonous python, causing it to have 5 arm-thick wounds, and blood flowed out. The next moment, when the green poisonous python was howling in pain, the 5 paper figures each threw out a talisman, and then continued to control the flying swords to stab the green poisonous python. Swish, swish, swish. The talismans thrown out by the 5 paper figures were 3,000 blades and 2 sky spears. Thousands of golden blades slashed down at the green poisonous python, and on the other side, 2 giant war spears more than 5 feet long also fell at the same time. Puff, puff, puff. The green poisonous python trapped in the formation had no way to avoid it, and directly took all the attacks. Even though it had fought desperately, the paperman at this time was already very different from before. The talismans and flying swords it used were even more powerful, directly piercing the green poisonous python's skin with holes, and blood kept spurting out. Hiss! The green poisonous python rolled on the ground in pain, but when it was directly chopped down by the 2 giant war spears, the green poisonous python, which was already full of holes, was directly chopped into 4 pieces. The 4 pieces of the body twisted on the ground for a long time before slowly losing all vitality. Obviously, when the paperman technique reached the limit, with the cooperation of 5 papermen and 2 second-level talismans, it had become extremely simple to kill a snake demon in the early stage of foundation building, and it didn't take any effort at all. Haha, good, I really didn't waste my life points. With a combination of paperman technique, talismans and formations, it is too easy to hunt down monsters below the middle stage of foundation establishment. After seeing the green poisonous python being killed, Wei Hong laughed with satisfaction. Chapter 679, 10,000 Snakes Riot. Outside the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, a paperman carefully moved in from the edge, trying to use the same trick to lure out a snake demon. The first 3 snake demons were attracted very smoothly, and Wei Hong controlled the paperman and killed them easily. However, compared with the previous times, the various snake demons in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss now seemed to be more irritable. A large number of snake demons were not basking in the sun lazily like before, or playing and entangled with each other. They were more likely to swim around or bite each other anxiously. In short, the valley seemed extremely chaotic. Seeing this scene, the paperman moved more cautiously. It crouched as low as possible, using the bushes and rocks in the valley to block it, and moved forward slowly, not daring to make the slightest sound. But the snake demons in the valley were too irritable and kept swimming. The paperman observed for a long time before finally choosing a target. It was still the old routine, directly offering the flying sword. Ling. The flying sword pierced the black water poisonous python, making a crisp sound and being bounced away directly. As the paperman expected, the black water poisonous python was indeed attracted by the paperman after being attacked, and then rushed towards the paperman in a rage. But the next situation was far beyond Wei Hong's expectations. Before the paperman turned around and fled, the irritable snake demons around the black water poisonous python had seen that the black water poisonous python had been attacked, and many snake demons also saw the existence of the paperman at this time, so a large number of snake demons followed a black water poisonous python and swam towards the paperman frantically, with an amazing momentum, and a terrifying feeling of thousands of snakes galloping. Wei Hong saw such a terrifying scene through the paper man, and instantly gave up the plan to control the paper man to continue to escape. The rioting snake demons were extremely fast, and it was difficult for the paper man to escape even if he was fast. Moreover, the number of snake demons attracted now was too large, and he could not handle it at all. Therefore, Wei Hong gave up the paper man directly. The next moment, the paper man standing still was completely submerged by the snake demon. It could not hold out for even a moment before it was completely torn to pieces. However, the rioting snake demons were unable to vent their anger and impatience. They began to wander around along the edge of the 10,000 snakes abyss and wantonly destroyed the environment in the valley to vent their anger. Even many snake demons in the key training stage could not help but start fighting each other, causing the snake demons on the periphery of the entire valley to fall into riots. Wei Hong, who was far away, was stunned after seeing this scene. Hiss, what's going on? Why are these snake demons suddenly rioting? How can I continue hunting? Is there something abnormal inside the 10,000 snakes abyss? Wei Hong frowned, and his mood became a little depressed. Because the snake demons in the 10,000 snakes abyss had rioted, he could not continue his hunting plan. Just like what happened just now, the appearance of the paper man in the valley may attract countless snake monsters. In this way, it is impossible to lure the snake monsters into the trap. If the hunting plan cannot proceed smoothly, it means that his way of earning spirit stones has been blocked, and the spirit stones that can be earned in the future will be much less. In this way, it will not be so easy for him to maintain the current progress of cultivation and purchase various spells and talismans. Without funds, many things will not proceed smoothly. However, the snake monsters in the 10,000 snake abyss are rioting, and this problem is not something Wei Hong can solve. He even secretly guessed in his heart whether there was something abnormal inside the 10,000 snake abyss, but he did not have the strength to go in and investigate. Well, forget it. Now that the 10,000 snakes are rioting, it will be difficult to hunt snake monsters in a short time, so let's go back. Wei Hong took another look at the rioting snake monsters and had no choice but to leave. Now that a large number of snake monsters are rioting in the 10,000 snake abyss, it is meaningless to stay here any longer. He does not want to waste time observing here, so it is better to go back and make plans. As for the loss of the paper man, it is not worth mentioning to him at all. So Wei Hong quietly put away all the formations, and then restrained his breath. He did not fly away immediately, but retreated a long distance before quietly flying away. Half a day later, he returned to the small courtyard. This time he only spent a few days out, and the harvest was not very great. After returning to the small courtyard, Wei Hong did not return to the secret room immediately, but sat at the stone table in the yard and brewed a pot of spiritual tea. As the saying goes, there is a way to relax and work, and he would never force himself to practice when he should rest. While drinking tea slowly, Wei Hong's thoughts were scattered casually. I don't know how long the snake demon riot in the 10,000 snake abyss will last, and I don't know if there will be riots later. If the riots are frequent, then it will be difficult for me to hunt snake demons from the 10,000 snake abyss again. If the hunting can continue, how can I continue to earn spiritual stones? Various thoughts quickly flowed in Wei Hong's mind, making him a little worried. The reason why his cultivation speed is so fast now is that he has almost completely increased it by swallowing various elixirs that can improve his cultivation. Therefore, to maintain such a progress of cultivation, a large amount of elixirs is needed, which means that a large amount of spirit stones are needed every year to maintain it, otherwise the cultivation speed will be greatly reduced. Without the spirit stones brought by hunting a large number of monsters, relying on a little salary every year, at most he can afford to buy a few bottles of elixirs, and nothing else can be done. Alice, I thought I had found a great way to earn spirit stones and obtain vitality points, but I never thought that there would be such a change. Wei Hong sighed, but there was nothing he could do. In fact, he was a little bit lucky at this time, hoping that the riot of the snake monsters in the 10,000 snakes abyss was only temporary. If it could be calmed down later, he could continue his hunting plan. Wait a little longer, go and see after a while, and make another plan if it really doesn't work. Wei Hong shook his head helplessly, hoping that the luck in his heart could become a reality. Putting all kinds of thoughts aside for the time being, he slowly tasted the spirit tea. In fact, this kind of life has made Wei Hong quite satisfied. This is exactly what he wants. He is free and unfettered, yet he can do whatever he wants. No one disturbs his practice, And there are no dangerous people or people with higher positions who will tell him what to do. It is tailor-made for him. I hope this piece will not be broken. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart. He also has a very clear plan for the future. He does not want his plan to be disrupted, and he does not want this peaceful life to be broken. He just hopes that it can continue forever, and it would be best if no one disturbs his practice. Chapter 680, Second Level Alchemy Furnace. A month later, Wei Hong quietly left the spiritual plant garden again and flew towards the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. However, he had just left for less than 3 days and returned to the spiritual plant garden again. 2 months later, Wei Hong went back again, but this time he had no intention of going to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss again. Sure enough, something is wrong. Wei Hong sat in the yard, frowning and thinking, it's been like this for several consecutive times. The snake monsters in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss are rioting frequently, and even many snake monsters in the late stage of foundation building have appeared on the edge. There must be something abnormal inside the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. I can't go there again in a short time. He went out twice in a row to investigate the situation in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, but he found that the snake monsters in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss became more riotous, and they rioted frequently, and there seemed to be no sign of calming down. In this way, the frequency of his hunting snake monsters would be reduced a lot, and he even had no intention of going to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss again in a short time, so as not to encounter irresistible dangers. But if he couldn't hunt the snake demon, he would have to find another way to earn spirit stones. The hunting plan has been blocked, so how can I earn spirit stones next? Wei Hong's mind began to turn rapidly. He thought secretly, among the 4 arts of cultivating immortals, I can now draw talismans, refine pills and set up formations, but I have never touched on refining tools. If I want to earn spirit stones, it seems that I can only consider drawing talismans or refining pills. As for setting up formations, he ruled it out without even thinking about it. Because he was already a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building, if he could set up formations, he would be a second-level lower-grade formation master, which was much stronger than an ordinary foundation building cultivator. Once his identity as a formation master was exposed, although it would bring him many conveniences and benefits, it might also bring him unexpected troubles, so Wei Hong didn't want to expose his identity as a formation master. After ruling out the 2 arts, only drawing talismans and refining pills were left. Both drawing talismans and refining pills seemed to work. In fact, I am better at drawing talismans. However, after reaching the foundation building stage, the identity of an alchemist seems to be more popular, and pills are more popular than talismans. Wei Hong pondered carefully in his mind, but failed to make a decision immediately. Although he knew how to make pills, he had never come into contact with a second-level pill formula after breaking through to the foundation building stage, nor had he tried to make a second-level pill. If he wanted to start with alchemy, he would not only need to purchase a second-level pill furnace and pill formula, but also spend some time to familiarize himself with alchemy. Wei Hong thought about it and soon came up with a way to have the best of both worlds. He immediately decided, why not expose my identity as an alchemist in public, and I will study alchemy openly, and then continue to study drawing talismans and formations in secret, advancing on both fronts. In this way, neither skill will be delayed, and there will be an additional way to earn spirit stones. When this idea came to him, he could no longer hold back. So he stopped hesitating and immediately began to prepare according to his own ideas. The next day, he immediately left the spiritual plant garden and headed for Kangshan Immortal City. This time, Wei Hong went straight to the treasure pavilion. After he gave his name, the steward Lu Xianai, who was directly responsible for receiving him, quickly came out to greet him. Haha, it turns out that it is Taoist Wang who has come. Come on, Taoist, please come in. Someone, come and serve tea. The last sentence was shouted to the maid next to him. Wei Hong used the same identity he used last time when selling monster materials, so Lu Xianai seemed very enthusiastic. After the two sat down, Lu Xianai immediately asked, Fellow Taoist Wang, what can I do for you this time? Wei Hong was not polite and directly put forward his request. I really need to trouble you, fellow Taoist Lu. I wonder if your Bao Kixun has a second-level alchemy furnace? And a second-level alchemy recipe? If so, can you bring it to me? Oh? Fellow Taoist Wang is an alchemist. Lu Xianai's eyes suddenly lit up, and he immediately became enthusiastic. Haha, Why not want a second-level alchemy furnace and alchemy recipe? I will order someone to send it to you immediately. So Lu Xianyi immediately gave orders and went to collect it with his steward token. Soon, a maid came in with a tray. This time, the tray was placed on a storage bag. After entering, the maid respectfully said, "Master Steward, I have taken what you want. Okay, put it here." Lu Xianyi waved his hand. The maid put down the tray and immediately bowed and left. Lu Xianyi directly picked up the storage bag, probed inside with his spiritual sense, and then stretched out his hands and clapped them, and 3 alchemy furnaces appeared in front of Wei Hong. "Please look, fellow Taoist Wang. These are the 3 second-grade alchemy furnaces we have in our store." Lu Xianyi pointed at the 3 alchemy furnaces on the table and began to introduce them to Wei Hong. The one on the left is called the Black Gold Panlong Furnace. It is a second-grade lower-grade alchemy furnace, made by our treasure weapon master. It is made entirely of black gold and fire-melting crystals. It is priced at 120 medium-grade spirit stones. The one in the middle is called the 5 Elements Gathering Refining Furnace. It is also made by our treasure weapon master, and it is a second-grade medium-grade alchemy furnace. It is very helpful for alchemy and can withstand the high-temperature calcination of the earth-lung fire. It is priced at 300 medium-grade spirit stones. The one on the right is called the Dragon Tiger Bagua Furnace. It was collected by our treasure weapon from outside. It is also a second-grade medium-grade alchemy furnace. It can also withstand the high-temperature calcination of the earth-lung fire. There is also a miniature Bagua gathering spirit array engraved on the surface, which can help to make pills at critical moments. This alchemy furnace is priced at 350 medium-grade spirit stones. After introducing all 3 alchemy furnaces, Lu Xianyi stopped talking and sat aside with a smile, waiting for Wei Hong to make a decision. Wei Hong listened to Lu Xianyi's introduction while carefully observing the 3 alchemy furnaces. For him, it was more appropriate to buy a second-level middle-grade alchemy furnace, which would not need to be replaced frequently in the future, so he only took a glance and ruled out the second-level low-grade Wujin Panlong furnace. His eyes mainly flowed between the 2 second-level middle-grade alchemy furnaces, and then looked at them carefully. He found that the alchemy furnace named Dragon Tiger Bagua Furnace did have a Bagua pattern carved on the surface, which should be the Bagua gathering spirit formation mentioned by Lu Xianyi. Wei Hong didn't know whether this Bagua gathering spirit formation was helpful for alchemy, but this Dragon Tiger Bagua Furnace was indeed exquisite. So he touched it for a few times and decided, okay, let's take this Dragon Tiger Bagua Furnace. By the way, where's the recipe? Taoist brother Lu, do you have a suitable second-level recipe? Haha, of course I do. I will show it to Taoist brother Wang. Seeing that a deal had been made, Lu Xianyi was naturally very happy. So he immediately took out several jade slips from the storage bag and placed them in front of Wei Hong one by one. Taoist brother Wang, the second-level recipes are all here. Take a look. Lu Xianyi looked at Wei Hong and asked, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 681 Yuhuan Meridian Protecting Pill. Half an hour later, Wei Hong walked out of the treasure pavilion with a calm expression. After he walked out of the gate of the treasure pavilion, he looked around and walked towards the street. Soon, he changed his identity and came to Yuan Hall where he bought the elixir before. After walking in, a servant with a keen eye immediately came up to greet him and greeted him warmly. Senior, please come in quickly. I wonder if there is anything I can do for you. Do you have a second-level elixir recipe for sale in Yuan Hall? Wei Hong asked directly as he walked in. Second-level elixir recipe. The servant was stunned at first, and then immediately said respectfully, of course there is, but if you want to buy the elixir recipe, our steward can make the decision. Please sit here for a while. I will ask the steward to come out immediately. Okay, go. Wei Hong waved his hand. He sat down at a round table on the side of the hall on the first floor of Yuan Hall, and then another servant immediately served spiritual tea. Soon, Wei Hong saw an old man in a white brocade robe walking towards him. What is your name, fellow Taoist? I am Baze. I am sorry that I cannot come to greet you from afar. Before he came close, the old man in the white robe smiled and bowed to Wei Hong and took the lead in greeting. Wei Hong sensed that the old man was a cultivator at the peak of the middle stage of foundation building, so he stood up and said in return, "My name is Feng Han, nice to meet you, fellow Taoist." He still made up a name casually, because this identity was originally fake. Baze immediately smiled and said enthusiastically, "Haha, it turns out to be fellow Taoist Feng. I heard that you want to buy a second-level pill formula. Is this true?" "Yes, I wonder if your hall sells second-level pill formulas? If there are suitable ones, I would like to buy a few." After Wei Hong sat down again, he smiled and replied, "Haha, that's easy." Bai Zhe would not refuse such a business that came to his door. He asked again, "I just don't know what kind of pill formula fellow Taoist Feng wants? Can you describe it briefly? There are at least dozens or hundreds of second-level, middle and low-grade pill formulas." Bai Zhe naturally couldn't take out all the pill formulas for Wei Hong to look at, so he had to ask Wei Hong what type of pill formula he needed first, so that it would be convenient for him to get it. Wei Hong pondered for a while before answering, "I want a few pills that can improve my cultivation, such as Zhangyang pill, Zuanin pill, Kingsu pill and Hunshan pill. I wonder if your hall has them for sale." The pills he mentioned, among which Zhangyang pill is the second-level low-grade pill he bought last time, the effect is very good, and the remaining 3 are second-level middle-grade pills, which are also one of the pills he wants to refine later. Since he chose to refine pills, he naturally had to consider his needs after breaking through to the middle stage of foundation building. If he could refine the second-level middle-grade pills by himself, he would not need to buy them from outside and could be completely self-sufficient. Wei Hong actually bought 2 pill recipes in Bao Kixun before, but he was not very satisfied with them, so he turned around and came to Yuandidang, just to see if this shop specializing in selling various pills had a pill recipe that met his requirements. Moreover, after buying the pill recipe, he also needed to buy a batch of spiritual flowers and herbs for refining pills, and Yuandidang became a suitable choice, basically without wasting more time. When Bai Zhe heard Wei Hong's requirements, he immediately looked at him with a look of surprise, and then smiled and said, "Haha, Dao is also an alchemist. You have a good eye. The pill recipes you mentioned are all used to improve cultivation, and the price is not cheap. The price is negotiable, as long as Dao is willing to sell it." Wei Hong waved his hand, looking indifferent. Bai Zhe thought about it for a while, then smiled and responded, "Well, since you really want to buy it, there is no reason for us not to sell it." After that, he took out several jade slips from the storage bag. Wei Hong smiled with satisfaction and immediately picked up the jade slips to check. An hour later, Wei Hong went to buy another batch of materials, then left Kengshan Fairy City and returned to the Spirit Plant Garden. This time, he spent a lot of spiritual stones, not only to buy a second-level middle-grade alchemy furnace, but also to buy several alchemy recipes in a large number of spiritual flowers and herbs, in order to quickly improve the alchemy skills. After returning to the Spirit Plant Garden, he went directly to the secret room. Sitting cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, Wei Hong did not take out the recipes immediately, but fell into deep thought and began to think about the next arrangement. "I don't lack the furnace, recipes, and materials, but my current cultivation is only at the second level of foundation building. If I want to make an elixir, I can use either the innate true fire or the earth lung fire. However, if I want to make an elixir for a long time, the innate true fire cannot sustain it, so I must find an earth lung fire vein. I don't know if there is an earth fire in this valley. If not, it will be much more troublesome for me to make an elixir somewhere else. Let's look for it first. It would be best if we can find it. If not, we can make other plans." Wei Hong was a little helpless. Everything else was easy to solve, but the earth fire needed for alchemy was not easy to find. If he had stayed in Kangshan Xiancheng, he would not have to worry about this problem. But now he was in the Spirit Plant Garden. If he could not find the earth fire in the whole valley, he would have to find another way to solve the problem. He planned to spend a few days to explore the Spirit Plant Garden to see if he could find the earth lung fire vein. If he could find it, he could immediately start building a secret alchemy room and start his alchemy plan. I hope it's not hard to find. With this in mind, Wei Hong took out several jade slips from his storage bag. He placed the 3 jade slips in front of him one by one, picked up one of them and began to check it. When he was in the treasure pavilion, in addition to buying a dragon tiger bag with furnace, he also bought 2 kinds of pill recipes, namely the second-level lower grade, Yuhu pill, and Hume pill. Yuho pill has the effect of improving cultivation, while Hume pill can protect the meridians during cultivation. It is usually only used during breakthroughs and is not used at other times. Wei Hong is now checking the recipe for Yuho pill. After half an hour, he slightly opened his eyes. At this time, the system just sent a prompt, Ling. The second level lower grade pill recipe Yuho pill was successfully included, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1500. Then Wei Hong immediately included the recipe for Hume pill. Ling. The second level inferior pill recipe pulse protection pill was successfully included, and the current proficiency level is entry level, 1/500. After successfully including these two pill recipes, he did not add vitality points immediately, but planned to include the other 3 pill recipes before considering how to improve his realm. Chapter 682, Green Water 6Gia Formation. In the secret room. Ling. The second level lower grade recipes Hengyang pill was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/500. Ling. The second level middle grade recipe Zuinitin pill was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/500. Ling. The second level middle grade recipe Kinksu pill was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/500. The system prompts continued, and Wei Hong successively recorded all the other 3 recipes. When he was in Yuan Hall, Bai Zhe only took out the 3 recipes he required, namely Hengyang pill, Zuinitin pill and Kinksu pill. Wei Hong was naturally satisfied to be able to buy these 3 recipes. After recording all 5 recipes into the system, Wei Hong thought about it and decided that the 2 second-level middle-grade recipes could be put aside for the time being, so he first improved the realm of the other 3 recipes. Ling. The proficiency of the second-level lower-grade recipe Yuho pill plus 500, the current proficiency is mastery, 1/800. Ling. The proficiency of the second-level inferior pill recipe Yuho pill is plus 800, and the current proficiency is small success, 1/1200. After spending thousands of vitality points, Wei Hong directly upgraded the 3 pill recipes of Yuho pill, Zhengyang pill and Hume pill to the Great Success realm. For him, the Great Success realm is absolutely enough for now. The next moment, a lot of experience, techniques and insights about alchemy began to rush into his mind frantically. The next day, Wei Hong flew up directly on his sword and began to search for traces of the Earth Lung Fire Vein in the entire Spirit Plant Garden. In fact, the Earth Lung Fire Vein is not uncommon, but the rare one is a large-scale fire vein. Generally speaking, the Earth Lung Fire Vein of a certain scale will be occupied by the major sects to supply the sects for alchemy or refining. If it is a small Earth Lung Fire Vein, it is actually not difficult to find in the wild. Wei Hong also knew this, so he did not give up the art of alchemy. If he had to go to Kangshan Immortal City every time he made an elixir, he would definitely not choose to earn spirit stones by making an elixir. Instead, he would choose to draw talismans, which is easier. Wei Hong stood on the flying sword and began to search slowly along the edge of the huge valley. In fact, areas with Earth Lung Fire Veins generally have very obvious characteristics, such as higher temperatures, very hot surroundings, no grass growing, etc. As long as there is really earth fire in this valley, he will definitely be able to find it. The valley where the entire spiritual plant garden is located is very large, but Wei Hong's speed is also very fast. He flew at low altitude all the way, constantly checking the landform features on the ground. However, he has searched most of the entire valley, but has not found anything yet. Is there nothing? Wei Hong frowned and began to worry. If there is really no earth fire in the spiritual plant garden, then he will have to think of other ways. Wei Hong just came to the top of a rock wall on the right side of the valley. Just as he frowned and talked to himself, he suddenly felt a burst of warmth rising from the ground, which made him feel very comfortable. Huh? Wei Hong's face lit up immediately, and he looked down hurriedly. At the bottom of the rock wall, the area of more than 100 feet in radius was a faint red, and even the rocks were slightly red. The temperature of this area was much higher than the surrounding area, and the air above the surface of the rocks was also distorted. Haha, there is indeed a ground lung fire vein, not bad, although it is not large in scale, but it is just right for me, haha. After seeing the abnormality in that area, Wei Hong laughed happily. There was no need to confirm it at all. He knew at a glance that this must be the ground lung fire vein he was looking for. It seems that the scale of this ground lung fire vein is not large, and it can even be said to be microscopic, but it also makes Wei Hong very happy, because it is enough for him to use. Good, good, it's easy to get it. After laughing twice, Wei Hong landed directly on the ground. Although the ground lung fire vein has been discovered, it will take a lot of effort to use it. After all, the ground fire is under the ground, and he needs to dig a channel. Fortunately, digging tunnels was his old trade, so it was not difficult for him. Wei Hong checked it carefully, and after confirming that it was correct, he said to himself, since it is correct, let's get started. He reached out and patted the storage bag, and directly took out a set of formation flags and a formation plate. This was a set of formation flags of the small 5 elements formation that he had refined before. This formation was only a first-level formation, but it had the function of warning and concealing the breath, which was just right for use now. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Wei Hong raised his hand and shot out 9 formation flags, each nailed to a special position. Then he held the formation plate in his hand and injected spiritual power into it. Buzz! The formation plate soon lit up a white light curtain with a buzzing sound, and at the same time, the 9 formation flags also lit up white light, and then the white light quickly spread, and instantly connected to each other to form a white light curtain, covering the area within 100 feet. After setting up the formation, Wei Hong put away the formation plate, then walked into the formation and took out a first-level flying sword from his storage bag. Swish! Under his control, the flying sword immediately flashed a sword light, and then pierced straight into the rock underground like cutting tofu, and then slashed back and forth, left and right, and a 3-foot square rock was cut out and thrown aside. Swish, swish, swish. The sword light began to cut wildly, and pieces of rock were constantly dug out and thrown aside. Wei Hong had a lot of experience in digging tunnels, and soon dug out a tunnel entrance that was 10 feet square. Next, he continued to dig downwards while performing the sand and mud fossilization technique to stabilize the excavated passage, and at the same time left a layer of stairs going down. After all, the alchemy room he had used for a long time would be below, so he naturally had to make it better. Moreover, he dug this diagonal downward passage very wide, enough for 3 people to walk side by side. After digging several dozen feet, Wei Hong felt waves of heat coming directly at him. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably be burned out here. Hey, we're here. Wei Hong was not surprised but happy, because this meant that he was almost at his destination. From the beginning of the digging, as he continued to go deeper, the temperature around him became higher and higher, which was enough to prove that there was indeed a small earth lung fire vein here. Very good, then let's build an alchemy room here. Wei Hong scanned left and right and confirmed the location of the alchemy room. So he controlled the flying sword again and began to continuously cut the surrounding rocks and soil, and slowly dug out a 10-foot sized alchemy room near the earth lung fire vein. After digging out the outline of the alchemy room, Wei Hong immediately took out a set of Bishu Liujia formation that he had purchased in advance from his storage bag. After slightly confirming the specific location, he directly arranged the formation in the alchemy room. Chapter 683 Alchemy Room. 3 days later. At this time, the underground tens of feet below, the appearance has changed greatly. Wei Hong walked down the passage, the temperature rose as he went down, but he seemed not to notice it. His face was very calm, and soon he came to a black stone door. He slowly pushed the stone door open and walked in directly. After entering, the heat wave that was originally coming was directly isolated behind the stone door, and could not cause any impact on the inside, as if the inside and outside of the stone door were 2 different worlds. At this time, what appeared in front of Wei Hong was a 10-foot wide underground secret room. The 4 walls of this secret room, including the floor and the ceiling, were all made of a black rock like the door. This black rock is called basalt. Basalt has a very special effect, that is, it can completely isolate heat, so this basalt has become an excellent material for major sects to build various alchemy rooms under the ground lung fire vein. Wei Hong prepared some in the fairy city that day, and it just came in handy at this time. Using basalt to build this alchemy room, he didn't have to worry about being affected by the ground fire. On the left side of the alchemy room, there are 2 4-layer stone shelves, and next to the stone shelves is a smooth stone table that is 10 feet long and 3 feet high. These things were made by Wei Hong using local materials, and they are very simple. In the center of the alchemy room, there is an area surrounded by basalt bricks and stones. This area is about 10 feet square, with 8 steps going down on all 4 sides. Below the steps is a layer of red rock plain, 5 feet square, with a dragon head connected to the red rock in the middle. The dragon head is about 1 foot high and is made of basalt. It doesn't look exquisite, but it looks very similar. The dragon head's mouth is open upwards, and there are some complex divine patterns carved around it. This dragon head is the earth fire mouth he made, and the area where the earth fire mouth is located is the alchemy area. Wei Hong walked to the alchemy area, reached out and touched the storage room, and a 1 foot high alchemy furnace appeared in his hand. Then he threw it lightly and sent out another spiritual power. The alchemy furnace immediately became more than 7 feet high, and landed steadily on the dragon head with a clang. The 3 legs of the alchemy furnace also landed around the dragon head. At this moment, this second-level middle-grade dragon tiger bagua furnace was completely displayed in front of him. This is a 2 or 3-legged alchemy furnace. The whole body is bronze, and it looks quite simple. The furnace body is divided into 2 layers, the upper one is small and the lower one is large. Both layers of the furnace body are cylindrical, just like a gourd. The furnace body is carved with exquisite and complex patterns. The patterns are winding and tortuous, and seem to contain unspeakable mysterious power. In front of the furnace body, there is a winding 5-clawed golden dragon, and on the back is a colorful tiger. Around the dragon and tiger, there are also bagua patterns and some complicated runes. The top of the furnace is a hemispherical lid, and the edge of the lid is also beautifully decorated. Circles of patterns ripple like water waves, which looks very beautiful. On the front of the furnace, in the center of the 5-clawed golden dragon, there is a round furnace door. The alchemy furnace is now standing on 3 legs, and each leg is carved into the shape of an animal claw, tightly grasping the ground, appearing extremely stable. Next to Wei Hong, there is also a stone table, on which there is a white jade array plate, and in the middle of the array plate is a low-grade spiritual stone. He came here this time just to start practicing alchemy. Try it first, find the feeling, and familiarize yourself with the 2nd-level pill formula. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and flicked it, and more than 20 boxes were placed side by side on the stone table. At this time, he sent a spiritual power to the white jade array plate on the table, and with a slight pinch of the formula, the dragon head under the alchemy furnace immediately sprayed out a thick red flame, tightly wrapping the bottom of the alchemy furnace. While the furnace was warming up, Wei Hong flicked his hand and opened the lids of all the boxes, revealing the spiritual flowers and herbs inside, as well as some spiritual fruits or rhizome-like materials. Then he took out more than 25-inch-high white jade bottles from the storage bag and placed them in convenient locations. After the alchemy furnace was warmed up, Wei Hong directly picked up a Cheyenne flower and threw it in through the circular furnace door. This is the first step in alchemy, refining materials, that is, to extract the essence of these spiritual flowers and herbs and burn out all impurities. When the Cheyenne flower was thrown into the alchemy furnace, he immediately controlled the array plate to increase the fire and began to burn it with a high fire so as to burn out all the impurities in the Cheyenne flower. Slowly, as the temperature rose sharply, the surface of the Cheyenne flower began to turn brown, and the petals curled up, and then slowly burned into gray ash and fell directly to the bottom of the furnace. Wei Hong kept controlling the fire and observing the situation inside the alchemy furnace at any time. In less than a cup of tea, the Cheyenne flower was completely burned, leaving only a pile of thumb-sized blue powder, which was the essence of the Cheyenne flower. Seeing this, he immediately reduced the heat, then stretched out his hand and sent out a spiritual power to gently wrap the small pile of blue powder and took it out. Then he immediately picked up a white jade bottle and controlled the spiritual power to put all the blue powder into the jade bottle. Pop! He gently closed the bottle stopper and put it aside. Then Wei Hong picked up another snow jade grass and threw it into the alchemy furnace again, continuing to refine it. Purple salvia, star spirit grass, cayenne vine, yunlin flower. One by one, spiritual flowers and herbs were constantly thrown into the alchemy furnace, and were constantly refined into essences, and then taken out by Wei Hong and put into a white jade plate, waiting for subsequent processing. This time, he tried to refine Yuho Dan. Just the first step of purification and refining took him almost 3 hours. After putting the essence of the last spiritual herb into the jade bottle, Wei Hong couldn't help but mutter to himself, "This second-level elixir is indeed much more complicated than the first-level elixir, and it is much more difficult. If it is not directly promoted to the Great Perfection realm, just this first step of refining materials may take 2 or 3 years of practice to be able to purify stably. No wonder alchemy is the most resource-consuming skill among the 4 arts of cultivation. After trying to refine the second-level elixir, Wei Hong understood more why many cultivators could not choose the skill of alchemy. Not only because of insufficient talent, but also because alchemy is too expensive. Without strong financial support, it is really difficult to become an alchemist above the second level. Apart from other things, the consumption of alchemy materials alone is enough to stop most cultivators. Once a furnace of elixir is directly refined, it means that all the materials have been wasted. If you want to continue practicing, you have to keep investing until you have spent countless materials to truly refine the alchemy. Fortunately, I don't need to do this, otherwise no matter how many spirit stones I have, I won't be able to bear it. Wei Hong secretly sighed in his heart, and then began to continue the next step of refining the pill. Chapter 684, Cheyenne Ring Thunder Array. A month later, Wei Hong walked out of the alchemy room with a calm expression, and then returned to the courtyard. This time, he tried to make alchemy, and of course he gained something. He used up all the materials he prepared and made 3 bottles of Yuhudan in total. The price of the 3 bottles of Yuhudan was not much different from the price of the materials, proving that he did not make any profit from this alchemy, and it took a month, so overall, he did not make any profit. However, his continuous alchemy for this month greatly enhanced his experience and understanding of refining Yuhudan. At the same time, he combined the experience in his mind with practice, so that his success rate in refining Yuhudan soared from less than 10% at the beginning to about 40% now. The improvement was very obvious, and the success rate could be further improved. In this way, Wei Hong naturally had a lot of confidence in alchemy. When the success rate of his several alchemy recipes was raised to the limit, the success rate of alchemy would definitely reach more than 50%. At that time, whether he used the refined pills for himself or sold them, he would make a lot of profit. Moreover, Wei Hong was also planning to attend the deacon meeting again in 1 or 2 months, and then quietly spread the news that he could refine the second-grade inferior elixir. In this way, his status and position could be improved invisibly. After leaving the retreat this time, he planned to go to Kangshan Xianchang again, first to buy a few second-grade formations, then to buy a batch of talisman-making materials, and then to continue to draw talismans and study formations in secret. Because his previous plan was to study alchemy in parallel, to expose his identity as an alchemist, and to secretly study drawing talismans and formations in order to improve all 3 skills together. The next day, Wei Hong went to Kangshan Xianchang again. After returning, he went directly into the secret room. After sitting cross-legged on the golden silk cushion, Wei Hong reached out and touched the storage room, and there were 3 more jade slips in his hand, which were just purchased from the shop in Kangshan Xiancheng. The 3 jade slips recorded the second-level lower grade, Illusionary Skynet Formation, Heavenly Capital Ring Thunder Formation, and Greenwood Soul Trap Formation. Among them, Illusionary Skynet Formation is an illusion formation that can confuse the enemy and conceal the fluctuation of spiritual energy, and the range of the formation is relatively wide. Heavenly Capital Ring Thunder Formation is a pure attack formation. Once it is deployed, the enemies in the formation will be bombarded by a continuous stream of thunder and lightning, and the power is very terrifying. The last, Greenwood Soul Trap Formation, is a trap formation. The attack effect is not outstanding, but the enemy trapping effect is relatively strong. If the enemy trapped in this formation does not have powerful means or a strength 2 small levels higher than the one who sets the formation, it is difficult to break out of the formation. These 3 formations were carefully selected by Wei Hong. The 3 types can cope with different situations and can also be deployed according to needs. In this way, it can be said that his means of array deployment are greatly supplemented, making the second-level array he arranged no longer so simple. Without any hesitation, Wei Hong directly picked up a jade slip and stuck it on the center of his eyebrows. Half an hour later, the system issued a prompt, Ling. The second-level lower-grade formation Illusionary Skynet Formation was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry-level, 1-500, then Wei Hong successively recorded the other 2 formations. Ling. The second-level lower-grade formation Heavenly Capital Ring Thunder Formation was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry-level, 1/500, Ling. The second level lower grade formation Greenwood Soul Trap formation was successfully recorded, and the current proficiency is entry level, 1/500. After recording all three formations into the system, he immediately spent thousands of vitality points to directly upgrade all three formations to the Great Accomplishment realm. A large amount of experience and insights on how to set up formations began to pour into Wei Hong's mind, and he immediately closed his eyes and began to receive them with all his strength. After more than 2 hours, he slowly opened his eyes, and then secretly sighed. After the three formations were upgraded to the Great Perfection realm, the vitality points I stored before have been almost consumed, but now I can't go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss. It seems that I can't earn too many vitality points in a short time. At present, the vitality points are almost used up, but the snake monsters in the 10,000 Snakes Abyss are rioting frequently. He doesn't plan to go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss again in the short term. In this way, he can't get more vitality points. Fortunately, his current demand for vitality points is not strong. The ones that should be upgraded have been upgraded. Now the newly acquired spells, pill recipes and formations do not need to be upgraded to the extreme realm in a hurry. Therefore, he can plan slowly, or wait until the 10,000 Snakes Abyss calms down before continuing to hunt. Even if he doesn't go to the 10,000 Snakes Abyss, he can also set up formations to lure other monsters in the mountains to hunt. In this way, there will naturally be a way to obtain vitality points. After raising the realm of the three arrays, Wei Hong did not pay any more attention to it. Instead, he put away 3 jade slips and took out a stack of talisman skins from his storage bag. This was a stack of second-grade inferior talisman skins. After taking them out, he stood up and went directly to a wooden table in the secret room and placed the stack of talisman skins on the wooden table. Then he took out second-grade inferior talisman pens and a can of second-grade inferior spiritual ink, one after another. He took out a talisman skin and laid it flat. Wei Hong held the pen in his right hand and dipped the tip of the pen in the spiritual ink until it was full. Then he placed the talisman pen on the talisman skin. This time, he was going to draw the second-grade inferior talisman Dian Jefu. The next moment, Wei Hong's right hand holding the pen started writing without hesitation. The tip of the pen quickly drew several mysterious runes on the talisman skin, which were both coherent and complete. The pen moved like a dragon and snake, and it flowed like clouds and water. Wei Hong was naturally very good at drawing the Tian Jefu, which had reached the realm of great success. Runes continued to appear on the talisman skin, and then connected into more complex divine patterns. As Wei Hong wrote, the spiritual power in his body continued to be injected into the talisman skin. Soon, he finished the last stroke with the tip of the pen without stopping, and then he put the pen down and stopped. Buzz! At this moment, a large amount of spiritual energy from heaven and earth began to surge with a buzzing sound, and then continued to pour into the Cheyenne talisman on the table, making the entire Cheyenne talisman glow with a faint golden light. The infusion of spiritual energy lasted for 3 breaths, and then the spiritual energy of heaven and earth slowly calmed down. Haha, it's done. Seeing the golden light on the Cheyenne talisman slowly faded, Wei Hong laughed happily. With a wave of his hand, the Cheyenne talisman was grabbed by him. At this time, although the light of this Cheyenne talisman was completely restrained, it still exuded a faint sharp aura, as if it could burst out an extremely amazing attack at any time after being activated. Seeing that the Cheyenne talisman was drawn by himself in one go, Wei Hong was naturally very satisfied. He looked at the Tianjia talisman carefully for a while before putting it away, and then continued to draw other talismans. Chapter 685 3 years, 3rd level of foundation building. 3 years passed in a flash. On this day, Wei Hong calculated the time accurately. When the sky just dawned, he immediately flew up on his sword and flew towards Kangshan Immortal City. Today is the day of the Deacon's Gathering. He went to Kangshan Immortal City just to attend this monthly gathering. On the flying sword, Wei Hong put his hands behind his back, and a light shield formed by spiritual power blocked all the strong winds outside. The whole person looked extremely elegant. And there was a faint smile on his face at this time, and he seemed to be in a very good mood. 3 years to break through another level, the time is not too long, it is completely acceptable. Wei Hong thought secretly in his heart. It took 3 years, with the help of a large number of elixirs. Wei Hong had already broken through to the 3rd level of foundation building half a month ago, becoming a cultivator at the peak of the early stage of foundation building. This is his biggest gain in 3 years. This is not only due to his daily hard work, but also because he swallowed a pill every 2 days, so that the speed of cultivation can be greatly improved, and it takes 3 years to break through a small realm again. It took about 5 years to go from the first level to the third level. Wei Hong thought it was just average, but if Zhu Ming and others knew about it, they would be so envious that they would want to replace him. Many foundation-building cultivators have become poor after buying 1 or 2 spiritual tools, and they can't afford to buy elixirs. Therefore, most foundation-building cultivators don't practice fast. Many people often spend 5 or 6 years, or even 7 or 8 years to break through the first level. Even the genius disciples in the big sects, with the support of big forces, many of them can only break through the first level in 3 or 4 years. In this way, Wei Hong's breakthrough speed is already fast. After all, not many people can eat elixirs like candy beans like him. This is the result of his investment of a large number of spirit stones. Of course, this is not all he has gained in the past 3 years. In addition to the breakthrough in cultivation, he has also achieved great success and progress in the 3 skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation. In the past 3 years, in addition to his unshakable hard work, Wei Hong also spent most of his time on the 3 skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation. After 3 years of precipitation and tempering, his 3 skills have reached an extremely high level, and the success rate of both alchemy and talisman drawing has reached more than 50%. If such a terrifying success rate is known to outsiders, it may cause great trouble. Because as far as Wei Hong knows, in this world of immortal cultivation, whether it is alchemy or talisman drawing, the success rate of ordinary foundation-building cultivators is 20%, which is already good. The more powerful ones can reach 30%, and even some extremely famous masters can reach about 40%, and not every time can have such a high success rate. In this way, it goes without saying how terrible it is that Wei Hong can achieve a success rate of more than 50%. Once it is known, he may be directly captured and imprisoned for life by those major sects, and then used as a tool for alchemy and talisman drawing, and will be exploited and driven for life. This result was naturally not what Wei Hong wanted to see, so he had always been very low-key. No one knew about these things except himself, and he would never expose them to the outside world. As for the formation, Wei Hong had already upgraded all the second-level formations he knew to the limit after a lot of practice and experiments, and had also refined many sets of formation plates and flags. Now it was just a matter of convenience for him to set up the formation. In addition, he would go out from time to time in the past 3 years. Not for anything else, just to hunt monsters and obtain vitality points. The snake monster riots in Wanxian had never really subsided. Wei Hong could only hunt a few snake monsters every time and then retreat immediately, fearing that he would attract a large number of snake monsters to attack, so he did not dare to be greedy at all. Unable to hunt snake monsters in Wanxian, he used the paperman technique to continuously set traps in the surrounding mountains to lure other monsters. In this way, although the harvest cannot be compared with the snake monsters in Wanxian, it is much better than other hunting teams. In the past 3 years, he has hunted dozens of monsters one after another, including 7 or 8 monsters in the middle stage of foundation building. The harvest can be said to be quite rich. Except for some materials that are useful to him, all the rest of the materials from the dozens of monsters he hunted were sold in batches. After selling those materials, he obtained tens of thousands of medium-grade spirit stones. If there is no income from this amount of spirit stones, how can he afford to eat pills all the time? And it is precisely because of this income that he can continue to study the 3 skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation. Otherwise, alchemy and talisman drawing may be forced to stop early due to insufficient funds and inability to buy materials. Fortunately, all this is worth it. The breakthrough in cultivation is his biggest gain. It's a pity if Wanxian can continue to brush it. Wei Hong shook his head with regret. It is absolutely impossible for him to have no idea about the millions of snake monsters in the Wanxian. He even regarded the Wanxian as a treasure land that could be continuously scoured. Who knew that the snake monsters in it would riot frequently? In addition to the large amount of spirit stones obtained from selling monster materials, Wei Hong also gained tens of thousands of vitality points. This income of vitality points allowed him to upgrade all the spells, pill recipes, formations and other skills that had not yet reached the limit to the limit. Coupled with the breakthrough in his own cultivation realm, Wei Hong's strength has been greatly improved at this time. Even if he encounters a cultivator or a monster in the middle stage of the foundation building, he can completely defeat him. As long as he does not encounter a cultivator or a monster in the late stage of the foundation building, he will not be in any danger at all. Even if he encounters a cultivator in the late stage of the foundation building, Wei Hong can actually fight one or two, and with all the means, it is not a big problem to get away. Of course, this cannot be shown to the outside world. Once exposed, he must not leave any survivors, so as not to cause himself a big trouble and destroy his current quiet life. It would be best if this kind of life could continue until I break through to the golden core stage. Wei Hong thought with a little expectation in his heart. The flying sword flew through the air and soon approached Kangshan Immortal City. After pressing the sword light in front of the moat, Wei Hong slowly walked into the city gate with the crowd after landing. After entering Kangshan Immortal City, he did not immediately attend the deacon meeting, but strolled around casually to see if there were any unexpected gains, and then set off for Kangling Hall. Half an hour later, he walked to the door of Kangling Hall. At this time, at the gate of Kangling Hall, various monks with deacon tokens on their waists kept walking in. Wei Hong looked up, then raised his foot and walked in. Chapter 686, Rising to Fame. Kangling Hall. After entering, Wei Hong began to walk towards the stalls with great skill. If he could trade for cheaper spiritual flowers and herbs or various materials from these stalls, it would definitely be worth it for him. Although the materials in large shops such as Bao Kixun or Yuandadang are more complete, the prices are not cheap. Whether buying or selling, they need to make a profit from it. Unless necessary, he does not want to deal with those large shops. Hey, Zunjing flower? And Yangayan grass. After Wei Hong strolled for a while, he suddenly stopped in front of a stall. He first looked at the things on the stall, and then asked directly, Dao, how much are your Zunjing flower and Yangayan grass? The two spiritual flowers and herbs he liked are one of the main materials needed to refine Zhangyang pill. Wei Hong's current cultivation has reached the third level of foundation building. The medicinal power of Yuhu pill is not enough for him. Only Zhangyang pill is more suitable, so he plans to mainly refine Zhangyang pill in the future. The stall owner in front of him was a middle-aged man with a monk's figure but a relatively ordinary appearance. He looked up at Wei Hong and replied, if you really want it, you can get 2 plants for 1 medium-grade spiritual stone. At this time, there were 4 black crystal flowers and 6 Yangayan grass on this stall. The price given by the stall owner was naturally lower than that of the shop, so when Wei Hong heard the price, he immediately nodded and said, okay, I want them all, pack them up for me. With a flip of his palm, he took out 5 medium-grade spiritual stones and handed them over. Okay, these are the black crystal flowers and Yangayan grass for you, please take them. The middle-aged man was also very straightforward. He immediately packed the spiritual flowers and herbs that Wei Hong needed and handed them over. The two of them directly completed the transaction. After the harvest, Wei Hong continued to stroll around with greater anticipation. But the things he saw next were either too rare for him to buy, or useless to him, or he didn't like them, so after a round of walking, he planned to go to the side hall where Zhu Ming and others were gathering. At this time, a middle-aged man with a goatee came over. When he saw Wei Hong, he was immediately delighted and hurried forward to greet him, saying, haha, fellow Taoist Wei, long time no see, how are you these days? Wei Hong looked over and found that he had met this man twice before, so he immediately smiled and said, it turns out to be fellow Taoist Chen, nice to meet you, it's been a while since we last met. This man's name was Chen Yuang, and he was a deacon whom he slowly got to know after attending the deacon gatherings several times. During these 3 years, Wei Hong actually came to the Kangling Hall from time to time to attend gatherings. Since that time when he took the initiative to exchange ideas with others, his reputation began to spread slowly among the deacons. In addition, every time he came to attend the deacon gatherings in the past 3 years, he liked to exchange ideas with others, or to fight with others, and he was able to win every time, showing strong fighting power, so his reputation gradually increased a lot. The most important thing is that he inadvertently exposed his identity as an alchemist, and he was also able to refine a variety of second-level inferior elixirs. Therefore, Wei Hong's reputation was greatly improved at this time, and he was also respected by many people. After all, the identity of an alchemist is not comparable to that of an ordinary foundation-building cultivator. In this way, he has established a firm foothold among many deacons. In the past 3 years, every time he attended a gathering, There would be some deacons who wanted to buy elixirs from him or ask him to open a furnace to refine elixirs. Just like the current deacon named Chen Yuang, he must have the same idea. Sure enough, after the greetings, Chen Yuang immediately said, "Dao Wei, I have prepared all the materials needed to refine the pulse protection pill. I wonder if you can ask Dao Wei to help me refine a furnace of pulse protection pill." Of course, Dao Wei will never let Dao Wei work in vain. Chen Yang made his request with a smile, and said that he would not pay less than what he should pay. After hearing his request, Wei Hong hesitated for a while, then nodded and replied, "Of course, if Dao Chen trusts me, you can bring all the materials to the number 7 spiritual plant garden in half a month, and then I will start refining pills for Dao." Refining the pulse protection pill was a piece of cake for him, so he didn't want to offend others with such a small matter, not to mention that he could also charge a hard work fee from it, so why not do it? Seeing Wei Hong agreed, Chen Yuang was overjoyed and said, "Haha, okay, then I would like to thank you, fellow Taoist Wei. I will come back to bother you in half a month." After saying hello, Chen Yuang said goodbye and left. Wei Hong didn't care and went straight to the side hall where Zhu Ming and others were gathering. After arriving at the side hall, he found that there were more than 30 deacons who came to attend this small gathering. Wei Hong's appearance immediately attracted other attention. "Hey, fellow Taoist Wei is here." "Haha, fellow Taoist Wei, you are finally here, come on, sit here." "Fellow Taoist Wei is here, haha, how about we have a fight this time?" "Fellow Taoist Wei, I haven't seen you for a long time, you finally show up." Seeing Wei Hong coming, the deacons who were originally sitting stood up to greet him and greeted each other. Obviously, Wei Hong's status and position at this time were no longer the same as before. Even the deacons in the middle stage of foundation building did not dare to neglect him, and each of them seemed extremely enthusiastic. "Haha, Wei, greet you all." Wei Hong naturally responded with a smile and bowed his hands one by one. Zhu Ming then smiled and pulled Wei Hong over, and then said, "Friend Wei, you are a little late." "Haha, I came to the party today on a whim, please don't blame me, friend Zhu." Wei Hong's attitude towards Zhu Ming was more sincere. Zhu Ming waved his hand indifferently and said, "What's so strange about this? Come and sit down. We are exchanging experiences of breaking through small realms." "Oh? Then I, Wei, must listen carefully." Wei Hong pretended to be interested and immediately sat cross-legged. In the past 3 years, because he fought with others from time to time, he not only showed his strong fighting power, but also inadvertently revealed that he had broken through to the second level of foundation building half a year ago, which made people dare not underestimate him. After all, when it is time to show strength, you can't hide it. Wei Hong naturally understands this truth, and he hides half and reveals half, and there is nothing wrong with showing his cultivation of the second level of foundation building. As for his true cultivation of the third level of foundation building, he naturally has to hide it for a while. Wei Hong was actually quite interested in other cultivators' experiences in breaking through small realms. Even if it didn't help him much, they could learn from each other, which was definitely beneficial. This exchange lasted for more than 2 hours before it became a private exchange between the deacons. Wei Hong wanted to chat with Zhu Ming, but at this time 2 unfamiliar deacons walked towards him. Chapter 687, Jinden Family Invites You to Fight. "Are you Wei Hong, fellow Taoist?" The 2 deacons came to Wei Hong, and the middle-aged man on the left asked with a smile. Among the 2 deacons, the one on the left was older, wearing a gray brocade robe, with his hair tied up in a white jade hairpin, and he seemed to have some extraordinary bearing. The one on the right was younger, and seemed to be very curious about Wei Hong. Even though he had come to him, he still kept looking at him. Wei Hong frowned secretly, but a smile appeared on his face. He bowed and asked, "It's me. What are your names? Is there anything you want to see me for?" "My surname is Xiao, and my given name is Hang. This is Xiao Zhen, my cousin." Xiao Hang introduced himself first, and then replied, "I came to see fellow Taoist Wei this time because I really have something to discuss. I wonder if fellow Taoist Wei can have a word with me." Xiao Hang deliberately looked around, indicating to Wei Hong that this was not the place to talk. Wei Hong was very curious at this time. What exactly did these 2 people come to see him for? Moreover, this was the first time he met the Xiao Hang brothers today. He had never dealt with them before, let alone known them. Therefore, The fact that the Xiao Hang brothers could come to his door directly must be something unusual. According to Wei Hong's cautious principle of doing things, he should not have agreed, but he couldn't refuse Xiao Hang's face in public, so he nodded after a moment of hesitation and said, "Okay, how about going to the side hall next door?" "Of course, no problem, Brother Wei, please." Seeing Wei Hong nod, Xiao Hang's face was also happy and hurriedly led the way. The three of them directly found an empty side hall next to them, and after closing the door, it became a more private place. At present, there was no one else in this side hall except the three of them. Xiao Hang looked at Wei Hong with a smile on his face and said, "Haha, this matter is not easy to discuss in front of outsiders. If it is abrupt, I hope Brother Wei will not blame me." As he said that, Xiao Hang also politely bowed his hands. Wei Hong waved his hand and said indifferently, "Hey, Dao Xiao, you are too polite. I am just a little confused. I don't know why you two are looking for me." He didn't want to beat around the bush with Xiao Hang and the others, so he asked directly. But Xiao Hang didn't answer his question immediately, but asked back, "Before answering Dao Yao's question, I want to ask you one more question. I wonder if Dao Yao Wei has ever heard of the Nangxi Xiao family." After saying that, Xiao Hang stared at Wei Hong with burning eyes. Wei Hong seemed to be slightly surprised when he heard this, and immediately asked, "The Nangxi Xiao family that Dao Yao mentioned is the Jinden family settled in Nangxi Mountain, the Xiao family." He was no longer a novice in cultivating immortals. Even though he stayed in the spiritual plant garden for a long time, he still heard some news, such as some of the more famous families of cultivating immortals near Kangshan Immortal City. Among them, the Xiao family is one of them. Moreover, the Xiao family is also known as the Jinden family to the outside world. It is powerful. The entire family settled in Nangxi Mountain near Kangshan Immortal City and occupied many spiritual fields and mineral veins around. Wei Hong had only heard of the name of the Xiao family, but he had no idea about it. When Xiao Hang and the others saw that Wei Hong had heard of their family's name, a hint of complacency and pride flashed in their eyes, but Xiao Hang hid it very well, while Xiao Zhen next to him could be seen at a glance. Xiao Hang smiled and nodded, saying, "Yes, it is the Nangxi Xiao family. I didn't expect that fellow Taoist Wei has also heard of our family's name." "Haha, in that case, Xiao will tell you clearly. I came to fellow Taoist Wei this time because I actually want to ask fellow Taoist Wei for help. As long as fellow Taoist Wei agrees, our Xiao family will reward you generously afterwards. Are you looking for my help?" Wei Hong was full of surprise, and immediately asked, "Your Xiao family is a Jinden family. I heard that it is very powerful. There should be a lot of people in the family who are stronger than me, right? Fellow Taoist Xiao left so many masters alone, why did he only look for Wei?" This was exactly what Wei Hong was puzzled about. He couldn't figure out how a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building could help the Xiao family. However, Xiao Hang seemed to have expected this, and he immediately replied, "Dao Yao Wei, what you said is wrong. Although you are only at the second level of foundation building, your combat power is not bad, and you have never lost in a sparring match. This is extremely rare among cultivators in the early stage of foundation building, and not everyone can compare with you." He first complimented Wei Hong, and then continued to explain, "This time, I came to ask Dao Yao to fight. In fact, I just want you to fight with others. As long as Dao Yao can defeat your opponent, our Xiao family will reward you handsomely." After listening to this, Wei Hong frowned and asked, "Ask me to fight with others? Dao Yao Xiao, what do you mean? It's better to explain it clearly." Wei is really confused. Seeing that Wei Hong would not agree without asking clearly, Xiao Hang and Xiao Zhen looked at each other, and then Xiao Hang explained, "It's like this. Our Xiao family and Guangning Tang family have agreed to have a battle in Dangayan Mountain in half a month. This battle is related to the ownership of a mine, so our Xiao family is determined to win. And this battle is divided into 3 rounds, divided into the 3 realms of early, middle and late foundation building. We came to find fellow Taoist Wei. In fact, we want to ask fellow Taoist Wei to represent our Xiao family in the battle of the early foundation building. As long as fellow Taoist Wei can agree, just say whatever conditions you have." Xiao Hang showed an extremely generous and easy to negotiate appearance at this time. But his words made Wei Hong make a decision in his heart instantly. Obviously, The Xiao family should have known that his fighting ability was very good from his previous exchanges with others, so they were favored by the Xiao family and asked him to act on their behalf. But Wei Hong didn't want to intervene in the interest dispute between the two major Jinan families at all, so as not to offend others. That's right, the Guangningtang family that Xiao Hang mentioned was another Jinan family. At this time, he didn't need to confirm with Xiao Hang. He could clearly know that this matter was absolutely impossible. After all, as long as he agreed, no matter whether he won or lost in the end, he would offend one of the parties. How could Wei Hong agree to such a thankless task? What he feared most was being found by these things, and at this time he wanted to turn around and leave. Therefore, Wei Hong pondered for a moment, and then shook his head and refused in the expectant eyes of Xiao Hang and the others. Fellow Taoist Xiao, I'm really sorry, Wei is preparing to retreat and practice hard recently, and I don't want to be distracted by other things, so please find another candidate for me. He refused very tactfully and found a very suitable reason. After all, one's own cultivation is much more important than other things. No matter how great the other benefits are, how can they compare with the improvement of one's own cultivation? As soon as this was said, Xiao Hang and the others were suddenly surprised. Xiao Hang immediately said anxiously, "Dao Wei, you can delay your retreat for a while. This fight won't take up too much of your time. I hope you won't refuse." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 688. No one dares to reject my Xiao family. Dao, please reconsider it. Xiao Zhen, who was standing next to him, could not help but persuade him. However, after these words came out, Wei Hong felt disgusted. Because Xiao Zhen seemed to be persuading him, but in fact, his words were full of threats. However, Wei Hong did not show any abnormality on his face. He just shook his head and said, "Dao, I really can't get away. This retreat is related to whether I can successfully break through to the third level of foundation building. It is extremely important. I can't be distracted by other things. I am really sorry. Please find someone else to help me." His words were actually very obvious. As expected, after these words came out, Xiao Hang and Xiao Zhen's faces suddenly became ugly and gloomy. Xiao Zhen was relatively young, and a fierce look flashed across his face and he wanted to say something. But Xiao Hang immediately stopped him, then took a deep breath and asked, "Are you worried about offending the Guangningtang family afterwards? If you are worried about this, there is no need to worry. Our Xiao family will never let you have any worries. You can even join our Xiao family as a guest official afterwards. In this way, how dare the Tang family make things difficult for you? And I can make a promise to you on behalf of the head of the family. As long as you agree to fight and defeat the opponent, our Xiao family is willing to give you 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones. What do you think? Since persuasion doesn't work, then promise a huge profit." This is Xiao Hang's countermeasure. He believes that 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones are enough to impress Wei Hong. Moreover, Xiao Hang had already inquired about it. Wei Hong's annual salary is only 100 middle-grade spirit stones. Now they are willing to give 1,000 middle-grade spirit stones, which is equivalent to his salary for 10 years. I believe that no one should be able to refuse. After saying this, Xiao Hang stared at Wei Hong with an indescribable look. Such huge benefits are not only the greatest sincerity that the Xiao family can offer, but also the ultimatum he issued. He just hopes that Wei Hong will not really make things difficult for him. However, Wei Hong did not take the 1,000 medium-grade spirit stones he promised into consideration. He was solemn and refused again, saying, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, there is no need to say more. I am really not qualified for this matter, and I am not sure that I can defeat my opponent. Therefore, please find someone else." 3 times is not enough, and he has refused 3 times. After this refusal, Xiao Hang did not say anything more, but his eyes looking at Wei Hong were extremely cold, like 2 knives, nailing him firmly. Xiao Zhen, who was standing next to him, had a gloomy face. He could not help but sneered and said, "Wei Hong, do you know what it means to refuse our Xiao family? You are just a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building. Have you ever thought about the consequences of refusing our Xiao family?" After failing to win over the invitation, Xiao Zhen, who was angry and embarrassed, threatened directly. Obviously, Wei Hong's repeated refusal had offended the two people in front of him. Xiao Hang said gloomily at this time, "Dao Wei, you must think it over carefully, don't do anything that you will regret." Compared with before, Xiao Hang at this time seemed like a different person. Wei Hong did not expect that Xiao Hang and Xiao Zhen were so narrow-minded. They just did not accept their invitation, but they actually threatened him in person, which really made him furious. Okay. Wei Hong laughed in anger, his expression turned cold, and then he sneered, "Wei really doesn't know what the consequences of refusing your Xiao family will be. Why, you turned threats into invitations. Is this the style of your Xiao family? Do you want to die?" Xiao Zhen's face was full of anger, and he subconsciously took a step forward. But Wei Hong was not afraid at all. Instead, he sneered and said, "Wei advises you not to act rashly. This is Kangling Palace, not your Xiao family. If you dare to mess around, you will bear the consequences. And your Xiao family's behavior is really despicable. It seems that Wei did the right thing by not agreeing to you." After saying that, Wei Hong turned around and left. After opening the door of the side hall, he left directly, not worrying that Xiao Zhen and the others would do anything unusual. As expected, although Xiao Hang and Xiao Zhen looked extremely angry, they did not dare to make any move. They could only watch Wei Hong leave gracefully. "Third brother, just let him go like this." Xiao Zhen's fists creaked, obviously suppressing himself. Upon hearing this, Xiao Hang said coldly, "How is it possible? Since this person is shameless, it's fine if he doesn't agree, but he also insults our Xiao family, we must never let him go. Third brother, tell me what to do, just tell me." Xiao Zhen's face suddenly flushed with excitement, and he wanted to kill Wei Hong immediately. For such a shameless person, they naturally wouldn't be polite at all. Before coming, the two of them thought that this was just a piece of cake. Not to mention the generous conditions, they even thought that just saying the words Nangxi Xiao family would be enough to make the other party agree. After all, their Xiao family is a giant family. Who dares to offend ordinary foundation building cultivators? But the fact slapped them in the face. They actually met a cultivator who dared not to give them face and even dared to offend their Xiao family. This immediately made Xiao Hang and the others very angry. Especially Wei Hong's repeated refusal and the reasons for the refusal made Xiao Hang feel extremely angry. He really didn't expect Wei Hong to be so bold. Thinking of the sarcastic words Wei Hong said when he left, Xiao Hang felt as if a knife was stabbed in his heart, making him feel extremely embarrassed. At this moment, he just wanted to kill Wei Hong completely to relieve his hatred. Thinking of this, Xiao Hang immediately said gloomily, "You will go to Xiao Zhang right away, and then the two of you will keep a close eye on Wei Hong. It would be best if you can set up an ambush on his way back to the spiritual plant garden. If this kid is sensible and obedient, take him in as a dog. If he is not obedient, get rid of him. No one dares to refuse my Xiao family." Xiao Hang clenched his teeth at this time. His face was ferocious, and he obviously hated Wei Hong so much that he wanted to get rid of him immediately. When Xiao Zhen heard this arrangement, his face suddenly became overjoyed, and he hurriedly said, "Okay, I'll go right away, third brother, just wait for my news." The Xiao Zhang mentioned by Xiao Hang was not the steward of Kangshan Immortal City, but he was a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building, and his cultivation was much stronger than Xiao Zhen. If he took action, coupled with the formations and traps set up in advance, Xiao Zhen believed that Wei Hong would definitely not be able to escape death. Thinking that he could get rid of Wei Hong soon, Xiao Zhen couldn't help but get excited. He immediately said goodbye and left, ready to greet Wei Hong properly. Xiao Hang stayed there with a gloomy face, watching Xiao Zhen's back as he left, and then said in a low voice, "A casual cultivator dares to be so rampant. Do you really think that you can be lawless as a steward of the Immortal City? Dare to offend our Xiao family, even if you are the steward of Kangshan Immortal City, I will make you pay the price." After that, Xiao Hang also left here. Chapter 689, Coercion and Inducement. Jinden Family Xiao Family. After leaving the side hall, Wei Hong muttered in his heart. In fact, he also expressed his helplessness and depression for offending Xiao Hang and the others. Who would have thought that Xiao Hang and the others would be so petty and hold a grudge against them just because they rejected each other? This is mainly because he has no understanding of Xiao Hang and the others, So he made such a result. But no matter what, Wei Hong would never agree to the Cao family to participate in this fight. Guangning Tang family is another giant family. Its power is almost the same as that of Cao family. Moreover, it can compete with Cao family for the ownership of a mine. Its power can be imagined. Therefore, he is absolutely unwilling to offend the Jinden family because of a fight. He enjoys this comfortable life where his cultivation can be steadily improved. Of course, he does not want to intervene in the fight and dispute between the two Jinden families. But it seems that I still offended people, Alice. Wei Hong couldn't help but sigh secretly when he thought of the ugly and gloomy faces of Xiao Hang and the others just now. He had been politely refusing at the beginning, but who knew that the other party was so ignorant, not only pressing step by step, but also threatening in the end. As a result, Wei Hong naturally could not compromise. Moreover, he did not immediately regard the entire Cao family as a huge threat in his heart. After all, in his opinion, refusing the other party was just a small matter. The other party could find another person to fight for them. The only petty ones were Xiao Hang and the other two. This matter was not a big deal, and the Xiao family should not take it seriously. However, Xiao Hang's eyes just now still made Wei Hong feel a little alert. It's just a rejection of the fight. That guy won't be so stingy and want to retaliate against me, right? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but keep a little guard in his heart. After leaving Kangling Hall, he did not return to the Spirit Plant Garden immediately, but went to Yuan Hall to buy a batch of alchemy materials to refine the elixir he needed. Now that he has broken through to the third level of foundation building, only this Hangyang pill among the pill formulas he is familiar with can have an effect on him, so Wei Hong decided to refine Hangyang pills in large quantities next, and then continue to practice in seclusion. The cost of refining the elixir by oneself is naturally much lower than buying the finished elixir directly from Yuan Hall, which is one of the reasons why his identity as an alchemist was exposed. However, Wei Hong did not know that when he was buying the spiritual materials for alchemy, Xiao Zhen brought another member of the Xiao clan, Xiao Zhang, who not only quietly followed his whereabouts, but also prepared to ambush him. After buying a batch of spiritual materials for alchemy, he went to Bao Kixun to buy a batch of materials for drawing talismans without knowing it. Then he slowly walked out of the gate of Kangshan Immortal City and flew away on his sword. On the other side, Xiao Zhen and Xiao Zhang had already hidden outside the city gate. When they saw Wei Hong flying up on his sword, Xiao Zhen immediately said, "Fourth brother, this is the man. Shall we follow him now?" Xiao Zhang next to Xiao Zhen was a middle-aged man with an arrogant demeanor and a handsome appearance. He was dressed in a black robe, his hair was simply tied up, and his eyes were slightly sharp. Seeing Wei Hong's sword light soaring into the sky, he said calmly, "You follow from a distance, and quickly catch up when we are almost at the destination. I will immediately go to the ambush point. My flying speed is faster than his, so I can intercept him. Then we will attack him from the front and back, and then kill him on the spot with the help of the power of the formation." "Okay, I'll go right away." Seeing Xiao Zhang's arrangement, Xiao Zhen not only had no objection, but responded excitedly, then immediately flew up on his sword and quietly followed behind Wei Hong. As for Xiao Zhang, he also flew up, but he did not follow behind Xiao Zhen, but took a slight detour, and then went to the destination at full speed. "Humph, kid, you dare to provoke our Xiao family, you really don't know how to live or die." Xiao Zhang sneered in his heart while flying. He was a 5th-level foundation-building cultivator, and his speed was naturally faster than Wei Hong when he flew at full speed. This was why he was confident that he could intercept Wei Hong. He believed that a 2nd-level foundation-building cultivator could not turn the world upside down in his hands. Moreover, they had already set up a 2nd-level inferior, 5 elements mystery formation, on a road that Wei Hong had to pass through to reach the spiritual plant garden. As long as Wei Hong fell into the formation, there was no way that Wei Hong would be spared, and the two of them could kill him calmly. With this idea in mind, Xiao Zhang quickly rushed towards the ambush point. Wei Hong was flying in the air with his sword at this time, but his face was a little ugly. It was because he had just left Kangshan Immortal City and noticed something unusual. It was because he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of crisis in his heart, and it kept lingering in his heart, as if something might happen, which made him alert. Could it be that Xiao Hang and the other two really want to take action against me? Wei Hong frowned and thought secretly, except for Xiao Hang and the other two, I have never offended anyone else. Could it be that the two of them want to ambush me halfway? Xiao Hang never thought that Wei Hong would guess the truth directly. At this time, he was not sure who wanted to deal with him, but the sudden warning was definitely not wrong. He always believed in his intuition, so he immediately became alert. If they want to ambush me halfway, they must set up a formation or a trap, and there must be no less than 2 people. So it must be the Xiao family. After thinking quickly in his mind, Wei Hong was sure. He believed that the people who wanted to deal with him this time were most likely Xiao Hang and his partner, and they must have set an ambush. Originally, according to his principle of doing things, although the ambush had not yet happened and was not necessarily true, with his cautious nature, he could have taken a detour or changed his appearance, so that he could have directly avoided this crisis. However, Wei Hong thought again, the Xiao family has learned my true identity and knows that I am stationed at the number 7 spiritual plant garden. If they are determined to make trouble for me, then I will definitely not be able to hide. Instead of passively taking a beating, it is better to scare them directly or get rid of Xiao Hang and the other 2 directly. Thinking of this, a trace of cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He believed that as long as it was handled more neatly, there would be no handle left. Xiao Hang and the other 2 were naturally not taken seriously by Wei Hong. He was worried about the Xiao family behind him. But if he was always remembered by the Xiao family, this was not what he wanted to see. It is said that you are not afraid of thieves stealing, but you are afraid of thieves remembering. How can you always guard against thieves? If this matter is not resolved, the Xiao family may bring him more trouble. With this in mind, Wei Hong made up his mind and did not change direction at all. Instead, he flew straight towards the spiritual plant garden. He secretly said in his heart, I want to see what Xiao Hang and the other 2 want to do. If they really want to take revenge on me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Chapter 695 Elements Maze Array. Fly all the way. Wei Hong stood on the flying sword with a solemn face. Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen didn't know that Wei Hong had become alert with his spiritual sense, and then guessed their actions and guessed that there would be a trap waiting for him ahead. But what they didn't know was that after guessing that there was a trap and an ambush ahead, Wei Hong didn't plan to change direction at all. Instead, he wanted to meet them and even wanted to kill them. As long as there are no giant and cultivators, even if there are 2 or 3 late foundation cultivators besieging me, I have the confidence to escape. If it's just Xiao Hang and Xiao Zhen, then they should be careful. Wei Hong thought carefully in his heart while flying slowly. The reason why he dared to continue to move forward openly after knowing that there was an ambush ahead was because he relied on his powerful strength that was unknown to outsiders. After 3 years of hard training, he has now reached the 3rd level of foundation building. As long as he reveals his full strength, slaughtering cultivators of the same level is like slaughtering dogs. Even cultivators in the middle stage of foundation building cannot pose much threat to him. Even if he cannot defeat cultivators in the late stage of foundation building, it is definitely not difficult for him to retreat. This is where Wei Hong's courage lies. It's just that he is confident, but when he should be careful, he is more cautious than anyone else. Therefore, he has been flying at high altitude all the way, not daring to lower the flight altitude rashly, and the flight speed is also deliberately controlled to be slower, so that even if an accident occurs, he can respond immediately. In fact, Wei Hong has already made preparations for his own response. For example, he has prepared 5 paper figures ready to go, and the 3 spiritual tools, the invisible needle, the yellow umbrella and the black iron flying shield, are all in his arms, ready to be activated at any time. Soon, he saw the intersection of the edge of the Siphon Plain and the Qianling Mountains. If you don't show up, I will go back to the Spirit Plant Garden. There was no one around at this time, but Wei Hong sneered secretly. Moreover, he deliberately flew high in the sky. Even if someone set up a formation to ambush him, such a height would be enough to keep him in a safe position and not fall into the formation. As expected, just when he arrived at the junction of the 4 plains and the Qianling Mountains, a brilliant red sword light suddenly stabbed at him from the ground without any warning, as if trying to pierce him directly. At the same time, a light of escape suddenly appeared behind Wei Hong, and then accelerated towards him, forming a pincer attack with the sword light in front. Humph, it's coming. Wei Hong snorted coldly in the face of the attack, and then stopped slowly. Buzz! He stretched out his hand in his arms and took it out, and a black shield immediately swelled up in the wind, turning into a huge shield the size of a table, protecting it firmly behind him. Ling! The red flying sword stabbed on the black iron flying shield, and immediately made a crisp sound and was bounced out. At this time, another person on the ground flew up with a sword, and made hand gestures, controlling the flying sword that was ejected and returned to his side. After Wei Hong sacrificed the black iron flying shield, he did not make any move, allowing the man to put away the flying sword and come to 100 feet in front of him. The escape light behind him also arrived quickly at this time, directly blocking him in the sky. The man in front was Xiao Jiang, who had arrived at the ambush site in advance and waited for a long time. However, his face was not very good at this time. After staring at the black iron shield surrounding Wei Hong, he sneered and said, "There's indeed something, kid. It was you who rejected our CAO family and insulted our CAO family with arrogant words." The 5 elements maze formation, set up by Xiao Jiang, was at the junction below, but he did not expect that Wei Hong did not fly at a low altitude, but instead raised the flight altitude. In this way, it would be nonsense to use the formation to trap him. Therefore, Xiao Jiang looked at Wei Hong with great dismay at this time. At this time, Xiao Zhen, who came from behind, sneered with a face full of gloating and said, "Haha, Wei Hong, I asked you before if you have ever thought about the consequences of rejecting our CAO family. Do you know now? Today I will make you regret offending our CAO family." Xiao Jiang and Xiao Zhen were not in a hurry to take action. They seemed to have absolute confidence in themselves. In their eyes, Wei Hong was only at the 2nd level of foundation building, and they were at the 3rd level and the 5th level, and it was 2 against 1. No matter how you look at it, Wei Hong has no reason to be spared. Moreover, Xiao Zhen hated Wei Hong very much, and now he wanted to see how exciting his expression would be. But Wei Hong didn't even look at Xiao Zhen, but looked at Xiao Jiang and asked calmly, "So what if it's me?" The so-called Jinan family is so stingy that they don't allow others to refuse. Seeing that Wei Hong had no regrets at this time, and even treated him as nothing, Xiao Zhen immediately said with a look of shock and anger, "Boy, you still don't repent when you are about to die. Do you really think you are a big shot? Do you deserve to refuse our CAO family?" Xiao Jiang's face also turned cold, and he said expressionlessly, "Rejecting our CAO family is a small matter, but you shouldn't insult our CAO family with your words. If you are willing to kowtow and admit your mistakes today, and offer 3 spiritual tools as compensation, I can decide to let you go. How about it? 4th brother, how can this be done? How can you let him go for nothing?" Xiao Zhen, who was behind, couldn't help but shouting anxiously when he heard this, as if he thought that letting Wei Hong go was something extremely unacceptable. Obviously, Xiao Zhen should be thinking of humiliating Wei Hong first and then killing him directly. However, Xiao Jiang's words gave Wei Hong a glimmer of hope. How could Xiao Zhen accept this? But Xiao Jiang didn't even look at Xiao Zhen. His breath was vigorous, and he locked Wei Hong tightly, and then asked, "How? I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't answer after the time is up, it will be regarded as a refusal." Seeing this, Xiao Zhen's face looked much better, and he hurriedly followed Xiao Jiang and locked Wei Hong tightly with his breath, fearing that he would flee without a fight. However, facing Xiao Jiang's coercion, Wei Hong's eyes showed a trace of ridicule, and he sneered with a look like a fool, kowtowing and admitting your mistakes? Are you afraid that your brain is full of water? If I believe your nonsense, maybe I will die faster, right? Let me go? Since you keep saying that you want to kill me, I don't have to tolerate it anymore. Die? Swish. A green sword light stabbed Xiao Zhen behind Wei Hong fiercely. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. On the other side, Wei Hong raised his hand and threw out 3,000 blade talismans and 2 heavenly spear talismans. Dense golden blades appeared in the sky, and at the same time, 2 giant war spears of 5 or 6 feet long appeared, and then they were ordered to chop down fiercely towards Xiao Jiang, who was 100 feet away. The momentum was extremely shocking. If Wei Hong didn't take action, it would be fine. Once he took action, it was like a thunderbolt. Chapter 691, You dare to kill someone from my CAO family? No one expected that Wei Hong would dare to take the initiative. However, Xiao Jiang and Xiao Zhen were not simple people. Although they did not expect Wei Hong to dare to take action under such circumstances, they were not completely unprepared. The two had different reactions at this time. "Ah, kid, do you really want to die?" Xiao Zhen exclaimed in surprise and immediately sacrificed the flying sword in his hand. At the same time, he took out a talisman and activated it immediately. Buzz! A yellow rock armor appeared outside Xiao Zhen's body, protecting him firmly inside. Ling. The two flying swords collided fiercely, making a crisp sound and then bounced out separately. How dare you? Since you are unwilling to kowtow and admit your mistakes, then you can die. Xiao Jiang's face was cold, and he looked at Wei Hong as if he was looking at a dead person. He waved his hand and threw out a few talismans, and then a layer of red spiritual power shield formed outside his body, protecting him firmly. Obviously, Xiao Jiang and Xiao Zhen were both experienced people. It was absolutely wise to protect themselves first no matter what. Swish! The talismans that Xiao Jiang threw out instantly turned into a ferocious giant fire dragon, and dense millstones and rocks kept falling down. The fire dragon also roared and rushed left and right in the air, blocking all the golden blades and giant war spears. Boom! Huge noises kept coming out. Xiao Jiang was about to say something at this time, but he suddenly looked up in shock. He saw that Wei Hong had come to a few dozen feet away, and a giant flame-slashing knife had condensed in front of him. Slash! Wei Hong uttered a word coldly. This was the golden flame slash that he had exerted with all his strength and reached the limit. Its momentum and power were enough to make Xiao Jiang look sideways. Is this the golden flame slash? Xiao Jiang's face changed slightly. The momentum of this golden flame slash seemed to be far greater than the golden flame slash he had seen before. It didn't seem like it was performed by a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building, but rather by a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. Faced with such an amazing spell, Xiao Jiang no longer dared to neglect it. He immediately made hand gestures, muttered something, and activated the spiritual power in his body frantically. The next moment, a huge fire sparrow 10 feet long condensed in front of him. This huge fire sparrow looked as lifelike as the vermilion bird, and there were layers of feathers condensed from flames on its surface. This was the spell Xiao Jiang was best at, the explosive flame divine sparrow spell. Go! Xiao Jiang shouted, and pointed at Wei Hong. The giant fire sparrow immediately let out a hissing cry, then flapped its wings fiercely and rushed towards the golden flame slash. Boom! The two spells collided fiercely, making a loud noise. The terrifying heat wave spread out in all directions, forcing Wei Hong and Xiao Jiang to retreat a distance. However, Xiao Jia, who had just retreated a distance, had a changed face, because the golden flame slash at the center of the explosion had not completely dissipated, but had only shrunk in size, but it still existed and was locked onto Xiao Jiang from a distance. However, the explosive flame divine bird technique released by Xiao Jiang had already dissipated in the collision, and the collision of the two spells obviously gave Wei Hong the upper hand. Impossible. Xiao Jiang's face changed greatly, and he shouted in disbelief, I am in the middle stage of foundation building and I can activate this explosive flame divine bird technique. How can I not be able to block a golden flame slash? What kind of spell is this? Such a result was obviously difficult for Xiao Jiang to accept. But Wei Hong didn't want to answer Xiao Jiang's question. He just smiled coldly and said, if you want to know what kind of magic this is, then try its power yourself. Go. The golden flame slash, which had shrunk by half, was still slashed towards the Xiao family under Wei Hong's control. Not only that, taking advantage of the gap between the spell explosions, Wei Hong had already prepared another spell, and at this time he uttered another word, quick. A wave of wood-attributed spiritual energy suddenly flashed in the air. Xiao Jiang's mentality had been slightly unbalanced by the golden flame slash. Seeing Wei Hong's persistence, a ferocious look flashed on his face. Okay, Xiao wants to see how powerful you are. Xiao Jiang gritted his teeth and sneered. He first drove the flying sword to stab the golden flame slash fiercely, and then immediately reached into the storage bag to take out some treasure to fight the enemy. It was obvious that he didn't want to delay any longer. But as Wei Hong uttered the word fast, a huge green vine as thick as a dragon appeared out of thin air. Before Xiao Jiang took out the treasure from the storage bag, it trapped him tightly like a flexible giant python. You. Xiao Jiang's face changed drastically in an instant, and his breathing became rapid. It was because the huge green vine like a dragon, after trapping Xiao Jiang, suddenly wrapped around him tightly, and Xiao Jiang was strangled tightly, and was almost strangled in two. This spell was the Dragon Green Ivy technique. Facing the extreme realm of the Dragon Green Ivy technique, Xiao Jiang's spiritual shield was completely useless. The moment he was strangled, the spiritual shield was directly shattered, which made Xiao Zhang like a prey strangled by a giant python. Not only could he not move, but as the green vine tightened, he also felt a terrifying force constantly compressing his body, making him feel more and more suffocated, and his expression instantly became terrified. Cut. Xiao Zhang couldn't move at this time, and could only control his flying sword to slash at the green vine. Ling. But the soft green vine was extremely hard. The flying sword only made a crisp whine when it hit it, and then it was instantly bounced away, and it couldn't cause any damage to the green vine at all. The next moment, without waiting for Xiao Zhang to use any more means, Wei Hong immediately pinched his hands and urged his spiritual power. Puff. Xiao Zhang, who was unprepared, was instantly strangled into several pieces by a terrifying force, just like being dismembered. He didn't even have time to scream, and the whole person was bleeding in the air, and then several pieces of his body fell from the sky, completely losing his life. From Wei Hong's use of the golden flame slash to Xiao Zhang being strangled into several pieces by the dragon green ivy technique, the whole process actually took only a short period of more than 10 breaths. Seeing that Xiao Zhang had been solved, Wei Hong immediately stretched out his hand and controlled the flying sword to pick up Xiao Zhang's storage bag and the flying sword that had lost control, and he put them away directly. On the other side, Xiao Zhang was still struggling with the flying sword used by Wei Hong, but he didn't expect that in just a blink of an eye, Xiao Zhang, who was at the 5th level of foundation building, was directly killed on the spot. After seeing the scene of Xiao Zhang being directly dismembered, Xiao Zhang was immediately frightened to death. No, you dare to kill our Xiao family. Xiao Zhang's face was full of horror. He was shocked that Wei Hong could kill Xiao Zhang directly with the strength of the 2nd level of foundation building, and he was also horrified that Wei Hong dared to treat their Xiao family as nothing, without any fear, and directly kill their Xiao family. Chapter 692, Unexpected Disaster. Xiao Zhang looked at Wei Hong as if he were a devil. Wei Hong turned around and looked at Xiao Zhang calmly, then said with a sneer on his face, "Oh? So what you mean is that only you Xiao family can kill me, and I can only wait for the death, but I can't touch you at all, right? Or do you think those pieces of meat are much more noble than me?" After saying that, he pointed to the pieces of Xiao Zhang's body that weren't already on the ground. Then you can't either. Xiao Zhang's face flushed, his eyes were full of fear, but he couldn't say anything to refute. The whole person no longer looked as high and mighty as he did at the beginning, but instead looked extremely frightened. At this moment, Xiao Zhang's heart was already full of regret. He hated why he disliked Wei Hong, and that was fine, but he actually wanted to ambush and kill him, but he didn't expect to kick the iron plate directly. What can't I do? Can't I kill you directly? What about your arrogance at the beginning? Do you regret it now? Wei Hong smiled coldly, but didn't want to talk nonsense with him at all. Now, talking to Xiao Zhang for a few more words is already a kindness to him. Wei Hong stretched out his hand and pointed, and a green sword light suddenly stabbed towards Xiao Zhang. Then he reached out and touched the storage bag, and an imperceptible faint gray light shot out silently. Xiao Zhang screamed and turned around and ran away without caring about anything. He controlled the flying sword and flew wildly towards the direction of Kangshan Fairy City, wanting to escape directly from here. Escape, you must escape. Wei Hong, you wait. As long as I escape, our Xiao family will never let you go. Xiao Zhang, who was fleeing madly, was still thinking about revenge in his heart, and even wanted to go back and report to the clan leader immediately. But how could Wei Hong give him a chance to escape? I saw a green sword light rushing towards him at a speed much faster than Xiao Zhang's flying sword, and it was about to pierce Xiao Zhang's body directly. Ah! Xiao Zhang looked back and was immediately frightened and screamed. He subconsciously propped up his spiritual shield, and at the same time, there was still a layer of yellow armor on his body that had not been broken. Xiao Zhang also slightly turned his body to avoid the science sword light. Puff! The outer layer of yellow armor was instantly pierced by the science sword light, and the spiritual shield on Xiao Zhang's body could only barely block the science sword light. Huh? Just when Xiao Zhang was relieved, he didn't notice that a barely detectable gray light flashed by. Ah! The next breath, Xiao Zhang immediately let out a shrill scream. I saw a gray needle the size of a little finger directly pierce through Xiao Zhang's spiritual shield that was about to break, and then instantly pierced his head, leaving a finger-sized blood hole on both sides of the temple, and then disappeared. This spiritual weapon was the invisible needle that Wei Hong had bought before. This invisible needle really came in handy at this time. It was so unexpected that even a cultivator like Xiao Zhen, who was in the early stage of foundation building, failed to notice it, and was hit directly, thus killing him. After screaming, Xiao Zhen lost his life, and naturally could not control the flying sword, and fell headfirst from midair. Wei Hong stretched out his hand at this time, and the invisible needle returned to his hand with a whoosh. Looking at this invisible needle that had returned to its pocket-sized state, he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction and said, not bad, not bad. It is indeed a sneak attack weapon, invisible and invisible. Even the spiritual consciousness is difficult to detect. It is worth spending hundreds of medium-grade spirit stones to buy it. After putting away the Qingang sword and the invisible needle, he pressed the sword light and found Xiao Zhen's body in the forest. Wei Hong took off Xiao Zhen's storage bag without any hesitation, and then a ball of fire fell on the body, burning the body directly into ashes. Finally, he raised his hand and summoned a gust of wind to completely blow away Xiao Zhen's traces. He did the same thing to Xiao Jiang's body, destroying all traces. After doing all this, Wei Hong immediately changed his appearance and flew away on his sword. After circling the Qianling Mountains, he returned to the spiritual plant garden. After returning to the courtyard, Wei Hong thought to himself, after killing 2 members of the Xiao family, the Xiao family will definitely not let it go. It seems that I should not leave the spiritual plant garden in the short term. This time, he was ambushed by Xiao Jiang and Xiao Zhen and killed them. In fact, Wei Hong was forced to do so. Who would have thought that the Xiao family would be so narrow-minded? What's more, he was intercepted and killed by the Xiao family. Naturally, this matter could not be resolved peacefully. In this case, Wei Hong simply solved the problem of Xiao Zhen and the others. In this way, even if the Xiao family guessed that he was the one who shot him, they would not be able to produce any evidence, so he could completely deny it. In this case, it would be better for him to stay in the spiritual plant garden. Alice, it's really an unexpected disaster. It seems that I should keep a low profile in the future. Wei Hong suddenly sighed, feeling a little depressed. He was just attending the deacon meeting this time. He didn't want to cause trouble or interfere in anything, but trouble came to him. Faced with such trouble, he had tried to refuse tactfully, and refused many times, but the other party stared at him until the 2 sides tore their faces and turned against each other, and even formed a blood feud. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help sighing again. Damn it, I just want to practice quietly. Why do you want to provoke me? Am I born to be a soft person? When he thought of this, he became even more angry. Because he knew that the thing he had been worried about had finally happened, and his life of practicing steadily was finally broken. This was what he didn't want to see. Wei Hong could well imagine that the Xiao family would definitely make various moves next. After all, he was the most suspicious murderer. In addition to the lack of evidence, the Xiao family must have already determined that he killed Xiao Zhen and the other 2. In this way, as one of the famous Jinden families near Kangshan Xiancheng, if the Xiao family had no reaction after their family members were killed, it would be too unreasonable, and it would even attract the ridicule and underestimation of other families. I just don't know who will come, but as long as they are not Jinden cultivators, it doesn't matter who comes. The spiritual plant garden I am in charge of is the property of the Xiancheng. Who dares to mess around openly? Wei Hong's mind was very clear. He had a clear idea of the Xiao family's next move and some countermeasures. Jinden family, right? I want to see if you Jinden families have the courage to challenge Kangshan Xiancheng. With this idea in mind, Wei Hong walked directly into the secret room. Chapter 693 The Price You Deserve. One day later. Kangshan Immortal City. North District, Courtyard number 23. Not to mention how Wei Hong prepared to deal with it, Xiao Hang, who was staying in the courtyard, frowned at this time. He was originally lying on a recliner with his eyes closed, but now he couldn't help but stand up and walk back and forth in the courtyard. What's going on? It's just a small matter. He is just a cultivator at the 2nd level of foundation building. With Xiao Jiang, a master of the 5th level of foundation building, it is not difficult to deal with him. Why did he take so long? Could there be an accident? Xiao Hang walked back and forth in the courtyard, and his heart became more and more irritable. He thought it was a matter of easy achievement, but who knew that Xiao Zhen and the other 2 had not returned for a day and a night, and no news came. This really made Xiao Hang have to think more. The longer he waited, the more anxious he became. But Xiao Zhen and the other two never came back, which made Xiao Hang really unable to wait any longer. No, if this goes well, Xiao Zhen will definitely come back in time to tell me. They haven't returned yet, so something must have happened. Once this thought emerged in Xiao Hang's mind, it could no longer be shaken off. Although he didn't want to believe it, his intuition told him that this was most likely the truth. Unless the two of them encountered something more important, it would be impossible for them to have been gone for so long without any news. No, I can't wait any longer. I must go find them. Thinking of this, Xiao Hang couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately walked out of the courtyard and flew towards the Bing 7th Spiritual Plant Garden after leaving Kangshan Immortal City. As time went by, there was still no news from Xiao Zhen and the other two. Xiao Hang became more and more uneasy. He couldn't wait any longer, so he had to go to the ambush site to check and see if he could find any traces. He flew low all the way in the direction of Bing 7th Spiritual Plant Garden and soon arrived at the place where Xiao Zhang had set the trap. Hey, is the formation still there? Xiao Hang soon discovered the 5 elements maze formation set by Xiao Zhang. His brows immediately furrowed deeply, because he found that this formation was not in a fully activated state, and there was no sign of damage, as if no one had fallen into it. They don't seem to have led Wei Hong into this formation. Such a strange scene made Xiao Hang quite puzzled. He didn't understand why Xiao Zhang didn't lead Wei Hong into the formation, and the formation was still intact, but Xiao Zhang and the other two disappeared. Looking at this intact formation, Xiao Hang's uneasiness became more and more solemn. Look, if they successfully intercepted Wei Hong and fought, they must have left traces nearby. Thinking of this, Xiao Hang immediately began to search carefully in the nearby mountains. Because he thought that since this formation was not used, there were only 2 reasons. One was that the other party was very alert and did not fall into the trap set by Xiao Zhang, and the other was that the other party's strength was far beyond expectations. Not only did they not fall into the formation, but they also solved Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen very neatly. If it was the second case, then this matter would be much more serious than imagined. When this thought came to his mind, Xiao Hang couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. More than an hour later, Xiao Hang found the place where Xiao Zhen was burned to ashes. Is this someone who was burned to ashes? Who is it? Is it Xiao Zhen or Xiao Zhang? Seeing this obvious mark, Xiao Hang's eyelids twitched wildly. Although he couldn't directly confirm that this was the mark left by Xiao Zhen or Xiao Zhang, his intuition told him that this was most likely the case. He stood there and looked at the mark of a human figure that was burned for a long time, and his face became extremely gloomy and ugly. At this moment, Xiao Hang's uneasiness had reached its peak. He continued to search for more than an hour, and then found some tiny pieces of meat and some fragments of black robes. These were things that Wei Hong was too lazy to deal with at the beginning, and they were scattered in the mountains and forests and were not noticeable, so he didn't deal with them all. But Xiao Hang recognized those fragments of black robes at a glance, all of which came from the black robe on Xiao Zhang. Sure enough, it is so. The right hand holding the fragment of black robe was trembling slightly. Xiao Hang's originally hanging heart finally died. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot at this time, and he gritted his teeth and said, Wei Hong, good, very good, you dare to treat my Xiao family as nothing, and dare to wantonly slaughter my Xiao family members. Do you really think that our Xiao family has no one? At this time, Xiao Hang had basically confirmed the death of Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen, but he not only had no regrets in his heart, but became more furious and hateful, and wanted to tear Wei Hong into pieces on the spot. In his opinion, Wei Hong was just a casual cultivator who broke through to the foundation building stage by chance. Even if he was attached to the strong giant leg of Kangshan Immortal City, it would not change anything. He was still a foundation building cultivator with no background. Therefore, Xiao Hang had never taken Wei Hong seriously. The reason why he invited him to fight for the Xiao family was just for the benefit of the mine. But now such a small person who had never been taken seriously by him did something that he could not accept. He actually killed 2 members of the Xiao family directly, which was equivalent to slapping him hard in the face. In this case, how could Xiao Hang let it go? How could he have the slightest regret? In his heart, he regarded this as a provocation from Wei Hong to him and the Xiao family, which made Xiao Hang, who is always high and mighty, even more angry. Wei Hong, right? Just wait, our Xiao family will never let it go. Xiao Hang threw the fragment of black robe in his hand to the ground, and then shouted angrily. After that, he flew up on his sword, not even bothering to pay attention to the 5 elements maze formation that had been arranged, and flew directly towards the direction of Nangxi Mountain. Obviously, Xiao Hang wanted to return to the Xiao family to report this matter. Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen were already dead, which was definitely a very serious matter for the Xiao family. Especially Xiao Zhang. He was a rare mid-stage foundation building cultivator in the entire Xiao family. For the Xiao family, he was definitely a very worthy member to cultivate, but the talent cultivated with a lot of resources had disappeared from the world at this time. Such a big thing, the Xiao family will definitely retaliate fiercely. And this is exactly what Xiao Hang wanted. He would never allow Wei Hong to get away with killing the Xiao family members. Wait, our Xiao family is not easy to mess with. No matter who you are, you will pay the price. With this thought in mind, Xiao Hang quickly rushed to Nangxi Mountain. He had to report the matter immediately and find a way to get himself out of it. Chapter 694 Nangxishan Xiao Family. Nangxi Mountain. It is a not very tall mountain near the Qianling Mountains in the south of Kangshan Immortal City. It is just that there is a spiritual vein near this mountain, so the spiritual energy around Nangxi Mountain is relatively rich. It is a rare treasure land for cultivating immortals. This is why the ancestors of the Xiao family took a fancy to it, and then after a struggle, the Xiao family finally settled here. After dozens or hundreds of years of development, it slowly evolved into the current giant and immortal cultivation family Xiao family. Xiao Hang drove the flying sword and soon returned to the Xiao family. The Xiao clan token tied around his waist flashed, and he entered the Xiao family's protective formation. What came into view was a row of ancient and quaint attics at the foot of the mountain. From time to time, several figures could be seen living in the attics, and there were many children playing and fighting outside the attics. There was also a row of exquisite attics halfway up the mountain, but the number was much smaller, and each attic was more exquisite and larger in area. On the top of the mountain was a stone palace built of bluestone. Looking at the stone hall on the top of the mountain, Xiao Hang's eyes could not help but flash a gleam of light, because everyone knew that the stone hall was the place where the ancestors of their Xiao family were in seclusion, and no one was allowed to enter without being summoned. After returning to the Xiao family, Xiao Hang immediately flew to a beautiful attic in the middle of the mountainside. When he arrived in front of the attic, he immediately took out a sound transmission node, said a few words on the sound transmission node, and then shot the sound transmission node at the attic door. Soon, a slightly old voice came from the attic, "Come in." Yes. Xiao Hang did not dare to neglect and bowed his hands to accept the order, and then walked into the attic with a solemn face. Entering the hall on the first floor of the attic, he immediately saw an old man with black hair and a somewhat majestic face sitting on the main seat in the innermost part, and this old man was staring at Xiao Hang. Xiao Hang greets the head of the family. Xiao Hang immediately took a few quick steps to the old man and saluted respectfully. Obviously, this person was the head of the Xiao family. If anyone is familiar with the Xiao family, they will know that the patriarch of the Xiao family is named Xiao Ying. Facing Xiao Hang's salute, the patriarch Xiao Ying just nodded slightly and said, "Well, you're back? Sit down." "Yes, thank you, patriarch." Xiao Hang sat down respectfully. Although Xiao Hang is also a foundation building cultivator, he dare not show any disrespect to the patriarch Xiao Ying. Not only because Xiao Ying is a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building, but also because Xiao Ying is an elder, and is the patriarch of the Xiao family for many years, and is highly regarded by the ancestors of the Xiao family. Xiao Ying has great prestige in the Xiao family. Almost all members of the Xiao family dare not show any disrespect to Xiao Ying, even if he is a foundation building cultivator. Although Xiao Ying has a dignified face, he speaks quite gently. He looked up at Xiao Hang and asked lightly, "Why are you so anxious to see me? What's the matter?" Although Xiao Hang tried his best to conceal it after he came in, the anxiety in his eyes could not be hidden from Xiao Ying at all. Xiao Hang did not dare to hide it, and after hesitating for a while, he said directly, "Master, something might have happened to Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen." "Something might have happened? Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen? What's going on?" Xiao Ying frowned slightly and immediately cast an inquiring look at Xiao Hang. Xiao Hang took a deep breath and immediately explained, "A few days ago, I received news that although a certain deacon of Kangshan Immortal City has only the second level of foundation building, his combat power is quite good. He has never lost in many competitions with cultivators of the same level. So Xiao Zhen and I wanted to try to invite that person to fight for us and help us complete the competition in the early stage of foundation building. Who would have thought that the man would not give our Xiao family any face at all? Not only did he refuse repeatedly, but he also insulted our Xiao family in the end. Xiao Zhen was so angry that he went to find Xiao Zhang after the man left, and then the two of them seemed to be going to cause trouble for that man. This matter is not a big deal. At first, nephew just thought that the two of them wanted to teach each other a lesson, so he didn't care at first. But a day and a night passed, and Xiao Zhen and the other two did not return. Nephew was worried that they might encounter some accident, so he went out to look for them. Who would have thought that nephew did not find the whereabouts of Xiao Zhen and the other two, but found some not so good traces. Therefore, nephew immediately came back to report this to you. After saying that, Xiao Hang showed an uneasy expression. However, after hearing what Xiao Hang said, Xiao Ying only frowned. His expression did not change at all, and he asked directly, "Who is the person you are talking about? What is his current status in Kangshan Fairy City?" Xiao Zhen and Xiao Zhang went to cause trouble for each other. Does anyone know about this? Also, what do you mean by those not so good traces? Are you sure that the two of them are really in trouble? Where is that person now? Xiao Ying asked a series of questions directly. He has been in charge of the Xiao family for many years, and he has long developed the skill of not changing his color even when facing a collapse. When he heard about such a thing, he immediately considered the matter from multiple angles with great calmness. Xiao Hang was stunned for a moment, and then he hurriedly replied, "The man's name is Wei Hong. He is a casual cultivator who just broke through to the foundation building stage a few years ago. Now he is the third-rank outer gate steward of Kangshan Immortal City, and is currently in charge of the Bing 7 spiritual plant garden. Only my nephew knows that Xiao Zhen went to cause trouble for him. The traces I found are traces of a body burned to ashes, and the other is some pieces of meat and robe fragments. Those robe fragments are quite similar to the clothes worn by Xiao Jiang's cousin." After saying that, Xiao Hang carefully glanced at Xiao Ying's face. The meaning of his last sentence was actually very clear. Obviously, he judged that Xiao Zhang and the others had been in trouble based on these two traces. Wei Hong? A third-rank outer sect deacon. Xiao Ying's brows were still tightly knitted. He glanced at Xiao Hang indifferently and asked coldly, "So, do you think the accident involving Xiao Zhang and the others is related to Wei Hong?" "My nephew thinks this is the most likely possibility, but we need to investigate the facts before we know them." Xiao Hang was a little cautious and didn't say anything definite directly. Xiao Ying thought for a while and asked, "In that case, how do you think we should investigate it?" Xiao Hang was overjoyed, but he pretended to think for a while before answering. "My nephew thinks that this matter concerns the life and death of two of our clansmen and must be treated with caution. Therefore, my nephew earnestly requests the head of the family to send someone to check the place where my nephew found the traces. If there is any result, send someone to question Wei Hong to see if it was him who did it. At the same time, we should send more people to find out the whereabouts of Xiao Jiang's brothers and see if they are safe and sound and have not returned to the clan." Even though Xiao Hang wanted Xiao Ying to send someone to seek revenge on Wei Hong immediately, he did not dare to show it directly. Instead, for the sake of safety, he put forward two more feasible suggestions. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 695, Raise an army to hold the culprit accountable. In the attic, Xiao Hang waited with bated breath for Xiao Ying to make a decision. The reason why he proposed to send people to search was because it was still uncertain whether Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen were alive or dead. Because their Xiao family was not a major sect of immortal cultivation, nor was it a top family, so in their Xiao family, ordinary foundation building cultivators were not qualified to leave soul lamps in front of the ancestors' tablet. The only ones who could leave soul lamps were Xiao Ying, the head of the family, and two other family members who were at the peak of foundation building. Therefore, even if Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen were dead, They would not know it immediately if no one saw it with their own eyes. After a while, Xiao Ying nodded slightly and agreed, okay, then let Xiao Feng go, and you go with him. If it is confirmed that Xiao Zhang and the other two have been in trouble, then go directly to find that Wei Hong. He dared to provoke our Xiao family. This matter must not be let go. He must pay the price with blood. Do you understand? The last sentence of Xiao Ying's voice was full of indifference and chill. Until this time, the head of the Xiao family really revealed the ferocious fangs hidden under the water. Obviously, Xiao Ying, who has been in charge of the Xiao family for many years, could not be a simple person. For him, even if Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen really died at the hands of Wei Hong, the loss was small, but the face of the Xiao family was a big deal. As long as the other party was not a giant and cultivator, he must make the other party pay the price in blood no matter what, and it must be enough to make up for the loss of the Xiao family, so as to save the face of the Xiao family. Therefore, Xiao Ying did not take Wei Hong, a foundation-building cultivator, seriously at all. He regarded him as an ant, as if he could force him to obey by mentioning the name of the Xiao family, even though Wei Hong was a third-rank outer sex steward of Kangshan Immortal City. Xiao Hang was ecstatic when he heard this. This was exactly what he wanted, and the patriarch had not yet held him accountable, so he immediately bowed and said, "Yes, patriarch, nephew will do it right away." "Well, go ahead, I'll notify Xiao Feng." Xiao Ying waved his hand slightly and said no more. Xiao Hang immediately bowed and then left the attic. One day later, hundreds of miles away from the number 7 spiritual plant garden, a flying boat more than 10 feet long was speeding towards the direction of the spiritual plant garden. On the flying boat, there were 10 people standing on the deck of the flying boat. The leader was an old man with a gloomy look, and Xiao Hang stood beside him. The two stood in front of the flying boat deck, looking far away in the direction of the spiritual plant garden. At this time, the old man suddenly said coldly, "Are you sure that Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen both died at the hands of Wei Hong?" This old man was Xiao Feng, a late foundation-building cultivator of the Xiao family. He followed the instructions of the head of the family, Xiao Ying, to capture Wei Hong, the murderer who killed Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen. Xiao Hang replied in a deep voice, "Didn't you go to check it yourself? And after searching, it has been confirmed that Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen were dead. Who else could the murderer be except Wei Hong?" "That's right." Xiao Feng frowned and said coldly, "But the other party didn't leave any evidence. What do you think we should do?" Previously, Xiao Feng, under the leadership of Xiao Hang, went to the place where Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen died to check it out, but only found some traces. Then he sent a large number of people to search for Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen, but still failed to find their whereabouts. Therefore, Xiao Feng concluded that Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen were indeed killed. So the head of the family, Xiao Ying, was very angry and ordered them to lead the 8 foundation-building guest officials of the Xiao family to go to Wei Hong to question him, and said that they would never tolerate him and he must pay the price. Hearing Xiao Feng's words, Xiao Hang sneered arrogantly, "Evidence? Do we in the Xiao family need evidence to do things? Besides, this matter is only related to Wei Hong. Who else could it be but him? We just need to question him in person, or ask him to take out his storage bag for us to search, and the evidence will naturally come out." Obviously, Xiao Hang wanted to use the power of the Xiao family to crush Wei Hong directly. In Xiao Hang's view, they brought so many foundation-building guest officials to question him. With such a scene, it would be good if they didn't scare the other party. How could Wei Hong dare to resist? Upon hearing this, Xiao Feng immediately smiled sinisterly and said, "That's right. We in the Xiao family do not need evidence to do things. It's just that I still find it hard to believe that a cultivator at the 2nd level of foundation building killed Xiao Zhang at the 5th level and Xiao Zhen at the 3rd level of foundation building. Such strength is not simple." "What if it's not simple?" Xiao Hang was full of disdain, pointing to the guest official at the foundation building stage behind him and said, "No matter how powerful he is, can he withstand us? If he really doesn't know what's good for him, then it's not our fault." At this moment, Xiao Hang had already sentenced Wei Hong to death in his heart. Thinking of this, Xiao Hang felt indescribably happy. Soon, the Xiao family's flying boat arrived outside the number 7 spiritual plant garden. After arriving at the destination, Xiao Feng didn't even move his eyelids, and directly ordered, "Send a message, Let Wei Hong open the formation and let us in." His tone was full of condescending and self-righteousness. Xiao Hang was secretly excited on the side, as if he had seen Wei Hong's panic and embarrassment. At this time, a man came out from the back of the flying boat. He was big and strong, with a fierce look on his face. He smiled grimly, then pinched his hands together to form a huge fire dragon. The next moment, he blasted directly towards the formation in front of him. Boom! A loud bang was heard. Violent explosions and waves of fire spread out in all directions. However, neither Xiao Feng nor the guests behind him seemed to be surprised by the communication method of the strong man. Instead, they laughed triumphantly and seemed very satisfied. This seemed to be their usual style. After being bombarded by the fire dragon technique, the formation surrounding the spiritual plant garden immediately flashed with light. Although the formation was not affected at all, the huge movement still directly caused hundreds of spiritual plant husbands in the spiritual plant garden to panic. What's going on? Who is attacking the protective formation? Quick, go and see what happened. Where is the steward? Go and inform the steward, maybe it's a monster attacking the formation outside. Monster? Another monster is coming? No way, go and see, everyone be careful. Various panic shouts came from all over the spiritual plant garden, and hundreds of spiritual plant husbands were alarmed, and then gathered towards the location where the explosion came from, wanting to see what happened. If it was just a monster attacking the formation, they would not be too panicked. After all, they have encountered many such things, but they have never seen a monster that can break the formation, so these spiritual plant husbands are not very worried. After all, there is a steward named Wei Hong in this spiritual plant garden, which makes those spiritual plant husbands feel inexplicably relieved. Chapter 696, Never Repent. Boom. When the loud noise came from outside the formation, Wei Hong also immediately sensed the fluctuation of the formation from the forbidden token. Huh? What's going on? Wei Hong suddenly opened his eyes in the secret room, looking a little surprised. Could it be that another monster has discovered the formation here? With this thought, Wei Hong immediately left the secret room and quickly rushed to the location where the formation was fluctuating. Regardless of whether it was a monster attacking the formation, it was a fact that the formation was fluctuating, so Wei Hong had to check it out to avoid any unexpected situation. He soon felt a location where the formation was fluctuating, and saw that most of the spiritual plant husbands had also gathered here at this time. Wei Hong frowned slightly, knowing that these spiritual plant husbands were just a little worried, so he was too lazy to scold them. He just waved his hand, and a spiritual power hit the forbidden token, making the light cover outside the formation transparent. In this way, they could see the situation outside from inside the valley. But when Wei Hong and the spiritual plant husbands on the ground saw the situation outside, they were all shocked. It was because at this time, outside the formation, there was a huge flying boat hovering, and 10 people were standing on the flying boat. All of them looked aggressive, and even through the formation, the spiritual plant husbands felt a wave of fear. After Wei Hong was slightly surprised, he immediately narrowed his eyes and looked at the people outside with a cold face. Obviously, the arrival of the Xiao clan had always been within his expectations. Since the other party had arrived, there was no need for him to hide it. So Wei Hong controlled the forbidden token again, and made the formation in front of him become two-way transparent. Outside the formation, when Xiao Hang saw Wei Hong appear, he immediately became expressionless, and then directly scolded in an unquestionable tone, "Bold Wei Hong, you dared to kill Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen of our Xiao family, do you know your crime?" After these words came out, Wei Hong did not show any reaction, but the spiritual plant husbands on the ground immediately exploded and were terrified. What? Our steward killed the Xiao family. Xiao family? Could it be the Xiao family, the Jinden family of Nangxi Mountain? That's over, that's over. Steward killed the Xiao family, and now the Xiao family is here to punish them. Really? Why would Steward provoke the Xiao family? What should we do now? They won't break in, will they? After learning the identity of the group of people outside the formation, hundreds of spirit plant husbands were really panicked at this moment. Although these people did not know the truth of the matter, seeing the menacing momentum of Xiao Hang and others, they knew that this matter was definitely not simple, and if they were not careful, they might be affected. Thinking of this, those spirit plant husbands became even more panicked and uneasy. However, Wei Hong retorted without any hesitation, Who do you think you are? How dare you question me? Which eye of yours saw me kill your CAO family? If you want to frame me, you must consider the consequences. As soon as these words came out, CAO Hang's face flushed. He didn't expect that Wei Hong was not afraid at all after seeing the battle, and even dared to refute and insult him, which almost made CAO Hang angry, and his eyes became full of resentment. Okay, you are really stubborn. Do you really think I don't know? If you plead guilty, maybe your CAO family can spare your life. If you resist to the end, this matter will never be stopped. CAO Hang laughed in anger, and his eyes looking at Wei Hong were also full of strong murderous intent. Wei Hong looked at CAO Hang as if he were an idiot. If he really believed what CAO Hang said, he would really want to die. He just sneered and said, "Confess? Confess what? Even if I am really guilty, it is not your CAO family's turn to judge me. What if you never give up? I'm here, I want to see how you will never give up. You still don't repent when you are about to die." CAO Hang gritted his teeth and scolded, then pointed at the clansmen behind him and said, "See? These are all guests of our CAO family, and each of them is a foundation-building cultivator. We came here today, and we will never leave until we achieve our goal. Don't think that the formation of the Spirit Plant Garden can protect you. If you don't confess your guilt, we will tear you into pieces later, and show no mercy." Faced with CAO Hang's threat, Wei Hong had not yet shown any reaction, but the Spirit Plant husbands below were all shocked, with fear in their eyes. The CAO family won't just blast through the formation and kill their way in, right? What should we do? We won't be implicated, right? What's going on? The steward won't really kill the CAO family, right? Those in the spiritual plant garden are not Wei Hong. They are really worried that the CAO family will recklessly bombard the formation and then kill their way into the spiritual plant garden. In this way, they will most likely be affected. Oh? Cut into pieces. Wei Hong looked at CAO Hang with a sneer on his face, his eyes full of contempt, and sneered, "Very good, I'll stand here. I want to see how you are going to cut me into pieces. If you have the guts, come in." CAO Hang glared angrily, but couldn't speak for a moment. At this time, CAO Feng, who was standing by, reached out his hand to stop CAO Hang. He took a step forward, looked at Wei Hong with a cold face, and said lightly, "It's useless to say more, Wei Hong, right? You killed our CAO family members. This is absolutely undeniable. You can't hide from it. If you are the murderer, you will know it after searching. You don't want to make a big deal, do you? Our CAO family is not big, but if you pursue it, you will definitely not be able to handle it with your identity as a third-rank outer door deacon. Open the formation and let us in. There is still room for this matter to turn around. My patience is running out. You'd better be more sensible." CAO Feng's words can be said to have completely revealed the style of the big family. Arrogant, domineering, strong, and unreasonable. Even if the CAO family did not have substantial evidence, they had already determined that Wei Hong was the murderer. Therefore, no matter how Wei Hong explained or resisted, they would ignore it and would only solve the matter according to their own ideas. Wei Hong didn't react at all when he heard this. He just turned his eyes to CAO Feng and responded calmly, "I really don't want to make a big deal out of this, but that doesn't mean I will accept your CAO family's false accusation. If you have evidence, just show it directly. If not, then go ahead. If you want to force it, you'd better consider the consequences." Facing the strong and overbearing CAO Feng, Wei Hong did not give in at all, but chose to fight back in a very tough way, and he didn't take the CAO family seriously at all. "You are more domineering than me? Then I will be tougher than you, and see if your CAO family dares to force it in the end." This is Wei Hong's idea, and it is also his confidence. Chapter 697. You guys want to search the storage bag? A gust of wind blew slowly. As Wei Hong spoke these tough words, both the valley and the outside of the formation suddenly fell into an eerie silence. The spiritual plant husbands on the ground stared at Wei Hong with wide eyes, not daring to breathe. They didn't expect Wei Hong to have such a tough attitude when facing the 10 foundation-building cultivators of the CAO family. CAO Hang and the 8 guests behind him also looked at Wei Hong as if he were a madman. No one expected him to respond like this. Especially CAO Hang. His eyes burst out with a furious look, and he stared at Wei Hong with a murderous intent that was as real as substance. If it weren't for the formation to isolate him, he might have done it himself. On the contrary, CAO Feng, who as the person in charge, only twitched his face, and his sinister face became extremely ugly. He stared at Wei Hong with an extremely cold look, and after a moment he uttered a creepy sinister laugh. Good, you are worthy of being the one who can kill Xiao Zhang. You are really bold. I haven't seen such a person in many years. Today I met him, very good. After a while of sinister laugh, Xiao Feng immediately changed to an extremely cold tone, and said word by word, I came here today, I don't want to waste words with you. Xiao Zhang and Xiao Zhen went to find you, but were brutally killed. You are the biggest suspect now. Open the formation now and let us go into search. If we don't find any traces, we will turn around and leave. If you don't want to, then from today on, our Xiao family will fight to the death with you. We will use all the strength of the whole clan to destroy you and never give up. Xiao Feng's words seemed to be filled with iron-blooded determination, which made people shudder. Especially the spiritual plant husbands on the ground. After hearing what Xiao Feng said, they immediately panicked, worrying that the Xiao family would directly bombard the formation, and after breaking the formation, they would be affected. In front of the 10 Xiao family foundation building cultivators, these ordinary key training stage spiritual plant husbands simply had nowhere to escape. At this time, these spiritual plant husbands looked at Wei Hong with a hint of pleading and expectation, hoping that Wei Hong could consider them and not really conflict with the Xiao family. At this time, seeing that Xiao Feng had expressed his position, Xiao Hang beside him immediately grinned and said, Haha, that's right, Wei Hong, if you resist to the death, you will only die faster. If you know what's good for you, open the formation and let us in. Facing the threats of Xiao Feng and Xiao Hang, Wei Hong was not panicked at all. He refused expressionlessly and said, It is absolutely impossible to open the formation. I will never let my life be controlled by others. You can just give up this idea. If you really want to come in, you can try to break the formation, how about it? After saying that, a hint of indifferent sneer appeared on his face, as if he was sure that Xiao Feng and others did not dare to attack the formation of the spiritual plant garden. As expected, when they heard that Wei Hong refused to open the formation, Xiao Feng and Xiao Hang's faces instantly turned as dark as the bottom of a pot, becoming extremely ugly. The eyes staring at Wei Hong seemed to be ready to devour him, looking extremely scary. But before Xiao Hang could say anything more, Xiao Feng took a deep breath, temporarily suppressed his anger, and then stared at Wei Hong, and said calmly, Well, it's okay not to open the formation. I'll give you a chance to prove your innocence, or you can hand over the storage bag for us to search. As long as you can prove that you didn't kill our Xiao family, I will never make things difficult for you. This is the last chance, I hope you can cherish it. To be honest, Xiao Feng had never thought that Wei Hong's attitude would be so tough. This was not only beyond his expectations, but also disrupted his plans. If Wei Hong was intimidated by them at the beginning and opened the formation obediently, then the situation would be completely controlled by the Xiao family. At that time, whether to capture or kill Wei Hong would not be a big problem. But now Wei Hong is so tough, he has no intention of cooperating at all, and he said that he would never open the formation to let them in. In this way, they really have no way to deal with Wei Hong for the time being. In front of the protective formation of this spiritual plant garden, any threat actually has no effect. Because this number 7 spiritual plant garden is the property of Kangshan Immortal City, if the protective formation of this spiritual plant garden is attacked, Wei Hong may frame them as the Xiao family wanting to oppose Kangshan Immortal City. This is a big deal, and the Xiao family cannot afford this crime. Compared with the giant Kangshan Immortal City, their Xiao family is just a small family that depends on others. Not to mention a giant like Kangshan's Henren, even his disciples only need to say a word to destroy the entire Xiao family in an instant, and all the members of the Xiao family will not even leave a single person alive. Xiao Feng, as one of the late foundation building cultivators of the Xiao family, is usually considered one of the top few in the entire Xiao family. Therefore, he understands the interests better than Xiao Hang and others, and it is impossible for him to issue an order to attack the formation. He had a fierce posture before, wanting to raise an army to punish, but in fact he wanted to intimidate Wei Hong, or bluff him, so that it would be easier to act, so as to complete the tasks assigned by the head of the family. But now facing such an unyielding Wei Hong, Xiao Feng was a little troubled, so he could only suppress his anger temporarily and try to solve the problem in another way. However, Wei Hong didn't buy Xiao Feng's tricks at all. He grinned and replied bluntly, "Prove your innocence? Why should I prove my innocence? If you have evidence to prove that I killed your CAO family, just take it out. What nonsense are you talking about self-proof? You still want to search my storage bag? What are you thinking? I'm afraid the search is fake, and you want to steal my spiritual tools and spiritual stones. Get out as far as you can. Faced with such an impolite request from the CAO family, how could Wei Hong agree? He rejected it directly without any room for negotiation. And he sneered in his heart, what a joke, you want to search my storage bag too, you really take me for a fool. Sitting in the spiritual plant garden, Wei Hong would not be afraid of the CAO family at all. The protective formation here is his greatest confidence. Since he is sure that the CAO family dare not attack the formation, why should he look at the CAO family's face? As for the future, let's talk about it later. When Wei Hong refused, CAO Feng's face and expression became completely ferocious. Obviously, he has completely angered CAO Feng and the entire CAO family. Okay, you are really tough. CAO Feng laughed angrily. At this time, the look he looked at Wei Hong was like looking at a dead person. He stared at Wei Hong for a long time, and then said viciously, you wait for me, our CAO family will fight to the death with you. As long as you dare to step out of this spiritual plant garden, I will make you die and never be reborn. Let's go. CAO Feng waved his sleeves furiously and directly issued an order to retreat. Chapter 698, There is no way to express the pain. Whoosh! The huge flying boat outside the formation turned around and flew away. Wei Hong watched the flying boat leave without saying anything. But deep in his heart, he was secretly relieved. Sure enough, the spiritual plant garden is the industry of Kangshan Fairy City. The CAO family alone cannot afford the consequences of openly attacking these fairy city industries. So as long as I stay in the spiritual plant garden, I don't have to worry about being retaliated by the CAO family. Wei Hong's mind was clear and he naturally understood the truth. This matter was almost the same as he expected. The CAO family really didn't dare to attack the protective formation outside. At most, they just made some harsh words to threaten him. But how could Wei Hong care about a few threats? He could stay in the spiritual plant garden and not go out. Anyway, he was just planning to practice hard for a while. If you want to squat, squat outside. Anyway, I won't leave the spiritual plant garden. Wei Hong sneered softly, turned around and went back to the courtyard. At this time, seeing that the CAO family's flying boat and Wei Hong had already left, the spirit plant husbands on the ground, who were originally a little panicked, could not help but look at each other, but after they reacted, they all breathed a sigh of relief and their expressions gradually recovered. They immediately dispersed and did not dare to stay any longer. Wei Hong went directly back to the secret room and sat cross-legged on the golden silk cushion. At this time, various thoughts began to turn in his mind. After today, I absolutely cannot leave the spirit plant garden in a short time. The CAO family will definitely send people to wait outside. They will not be satisfied until I am eliminated. But as long as I don't leave the spirit plant garden, there will be no danger. This spirit plant garden is not far from Kangshan Immortal City. I think the CAO family will never dare to take the risk of offending Kangshan Immortal City and actively attack a spirit plant garden near this immortal city and kill me, unless the head of the CAO family is willing to drag the entire CAO family into the water. In this way, I don't have to worry about safety for the time being. Thinking of this, Wei Hong couldn't help but frown slightly, and murmured helplessly, safety doesn't have to worry about it for the time being, but there is no way to leave the spirit plant garden. Fortunately, I bought a large number of alchemy materials before, so I don't have to worry about the shortage of elixirs in the short term. Since he couldn't leave the spirit plant garden, he simply closed himself off and practiced hard. Wei Hong would not worry about gains and losses because of the fear of revenge from the CAO family. He would only think of ways to make himself stronger. However, when he thought of the potential threat from the CAO family, he had to take it seriously. No matter what, the CAO family is a giant in Xiuxin family. Its strength and connections are not comparable to mine. I can stay in the spiritual plant garden, but it doesn't mean that this matter can be resolved. After today, the CAO family and I have become an irreconcilable blood feud, which is absolutely impossible to resolve. So even if I am safe for the time being, the CAO family is likely to keep trying to get rid of me. In this way, this hidden danger is much more difficult to resist than the open threat. It seems that I have to find a way to get information about the CAO family, so that I can know myself and the enemy. Wei Hong made a decision in his heart in an instant, and planned to get information about the Cao family. But he couldn't leave the spiritual plant garden now. He couldn't go to Kangshan Xianchang to get information about the Cao family. He needed to think of some other ways. What should I do? Wei Hong frowned and began to ponder. If the main body cannot be dispatched, can I send a paperman? No, the control distance of the paperman is too short and it cannot reach Kangshan Immortal City. In this case, I can only find someone to buy intelligence for me. Wei Hong thought about it and found that there was only one way to find someone to help. He immediately thought of Zhu Ming, and he believed that Zhu Ming should help him. As for the intelligence, he could go directly to Xianji Pavilion to buy it. As long as there are spirit stones, there will be no problem with the intelligence of the Cao family. After making a decision, Wei Hong immediately took out a sound transmission node, said a few words on it, and immediately sent it out. 3 days later, Zhu Ming restrained his breath and carefully approached the number 7 spiritual plant garden from a hidden direction. Although Zhu Ming did not know where the Cao family was squatting, he understood that it was better to be cautious and be cautious when necessary. Quietly coming to the outside of the spiritual plant garden, Zhu Ming immediately sent out a sound transmission node. Although the sound transmission node was blocked by the formation and could not enter the valley, he believed that Wei Hong would definitely be able to sense the fluctuations of the sound transmission node. After sending the sound transmission node, Zhu Ming could not help but sigh in his heart. Dao Wei is really too powerful. Not only did he kill Xiao Jiang, who was in the middle stage of foundation building, and Xiao Zhen, who was in the early stage of foundation building, but he also did not take the Cao family seriously at all, and did not worry about being retaliated by the Cao family. He is really amazing. In fact, Zhu Ming had already expressed similar feelings in his heart many times after learning about this matter. It was just because he had already admired Wei Hong very much after understanding the cause and process of this matter. This is also the reason why Wei Hong asked him to help buy intelligence, and he agreed without hesitation. There was just one thing that Zhu Ming could not figure out. Wei Hong was only at the 2nd level of foundation building. Why could he easily kill Xiao Jiang, who was at the 5th level of foundation building, and Xiao Zhen, who was at the 3rd level of foundation building? Could it be that he was hiding his strength? For this question, Zhu Ming decided to ask Wei Hong in person later. Before Wei Hong arrived, he quietly hid outside the formation. Soon, Zhu Ming sensed a slight fluctuation in the formation in front of him, and the sound transmission node hovering outside the formation was directly captured inside. It was obvious that Wei Hong had appeared. Just as Zhu Ming thought, Wei Hong was flying on his sword in front of Zhu Ming, but there was a formation between them. Wei Hong could see Zhu Ming, but Zhu Ming could not see Wei Hong. After a while, Wei Hong, who had checked the sound transmission node, first carefully observed the situation outside and found nothing unusual, so he immediately controlled the formation to open a portal in front of Zhu Ming that was just big enough for one person to pass through. Zhu Ming, who was outside the formation, was delighted when he saw this, and he quickly flashed through the portal and entered the valley. Haha, fellow Taoist Wei, you are really amazing. I admire you. As soon as he saw Wei Hong, Zhu Ming couldn't help but laugh and compliment him. Seeing this, Wei Hong hurriedly waved his hands and said, "Hey, brother Zhu, please stop making fun of me. I'm in a difficult situation right now, otherwise I wouldn't bother brother Zhu to help me. Haha, it's just a small matter. Since brother Wei has asked me to do so, I will naturally not stand idly by." Zhu Ming's attitude was still as warm as ever, and he didn't feel alienated at all because Wei Hong had offended the Cao family. Chapter 699, Crazy. Thank you, Dao Zhu, for your help. I am grateful. Wei Hong clasped his hands, and was obviously very grateful to Zhu Ming. If it were another person, knowing that he had offended the Cao family, it would not be clear whether he would immediately cut off his relationship with him, but at least he would never do such a thing of helping him in times of need. Therefore, Wei Hong naturally remembered Zhu Ming's favor. Zhu Ming waved his hand and said, "Oh, it's polite to say these things. This is just a piece of cake for me. Haha, Dao Zhu, don't be modest. I have remembered it all." Wei Hong laughed, and then immediately extended his hand to invite him. "Come on, Dao Zhu, please come this way. Let's go to the courtyard to talk." "Okay, Dao Wei, please." Zhu immediately followed Wei Hong and soon returned to the courtyard. The two of them sat down at the stone table in the yard. Wei Hong immediately brewed a pot of spiritual tea. After pouring a cup for Zhu Ming, he said, "Fellow Taoist Zhu, come and have a cup of spiritual tea first." Zhu Ming smiled and nodded, picked up the teacup and took a sip slowly. After he put down the teacup, he took out a jade slip from his storage bag and put it on the table, then said to Wei Hong, "Fellow Taoist Wei, this is the information about the Cao family you want, it's all in it." This jade slip was exactly the detailed information about the Cao family that Zhu Ming bought from the Xianji pavilion. Upon hearing this, Wei Hong didn't even look at the jade slip, and directly put it into the storage bag, then asked, "Thank you very much, how many spiritual stones did you spend? I will return it to fellow Taoist Zhu now." "Not much, 10 medium-grade spiritual stones," Zhu Ming said casually. "Haha, it's not much indeed. Come, fellow Taoist Zhu, keep it. If it weren't for your help this time, I wouldn't have been able to get this information so easily." Wei Hong immediately took out 10 medium-grade spirit stones from his storage bag and pushed them in front of Zhu Ming, and expressed his gratitude again. Speaking of this, Zhu Ming put away the spirit stones and looked at Wei Hong excitedly, saying with a smile, "Haha, fellow Taoist Wei, you don't know that you have become very famous among us deacons. Recently, many people have been talking about you, and they all say that you are ruthless enough to kill 2 members of the Cao family in one go, including Xiao Jiang, who is at the 5th level of foundation building. I really admire you." Wei Hong smiled bitterly when he heard this. He was sure that Zhu Ming had no other intentions, but he didn't expect that the matter would spread so quickly, which really made him a little helpless. This was not the result he wanted to see. But the matter had already spread, and there was no point in hiding it. He smiled bitterly and asked Zhu Ming, "Has the news spread? Did the Cao family spread it? Doesn't that mean that everyone thinks that I, Wei Hong, am the murderer who killed the Cao family members?" Wei Hong wanted to keep a low profile, but he didn't expect to be directly exposed by the angry Cao family. Zhu Ming looked at Wei Hong in surprise, and then replied, "Yes, the news did come from the Cao family, and the Cao family has already said that they will fight you to the death, and there is absolutely no possibility of reconciliation. Dao Wei, the incident has already happened. What's the point of denying it? It's better to admit it openly. Now many people want to get to know you." Zhu Ming didn't understand why Wei Hong didn't want to admit it. In fact, he knew from Wei Hong's request for help that the deaths of Xiao Jiang and Xiao Zhen were definitely related to Wei Hong. At this time, Zhu Ming thought of Wei Hong's previous undefeated sparring with others, and he was even more convinced of the matter. However, Wei Hong sighed with regret and said with a helpless smile, "Fellow Taoist Zhu, it doesn't matter whether you admit it or not. The Cao family has determined that I am the murderer and has said that they will fight to the death with me. Since this is the case, Wei can only be forced to protect himself. Since there is no possibility of reconciliation, Wei doesn't mind killing a few more members of the Cao family." At this point, Wei Hong's eyes unconsciously flashed with a trace of cold murderous intent. Then he continued to say to Zhu Ming, "It's just that the matter of getting to know fellow Taoists is probably impossible to achieve in a short period of time. Wei dare not leave this spiritual plant garden recently. The people of the Cao family should be squatting outside." Since the news has been spread, Wei Hong is too lazy to say more. Anyway, the Cao family regards him as a mortal enemy. He only needs to find a way to deal with the Cao family. Even if he can't deal with the Cao family, at least the Cao family will not dare to provoke him again. Now he is not taken seriously by the Cao family, but Wei Hong has plenty of time. He only needs to stay in the spiritual plant garden and smile bitterly. Sooner or later, he will reach a point where the Cao family dare not provoke him. At that time, this matter will naturally be solved. Zhu Ming didn't know what Wei Hong was thinking at the moment, but he was also shocked by his powerful spirit, and immediately said, "Dao Wei is indeed an extraordinary person, haha, Zhu really admires him. Alice, it's all helpless, Dao Zhu is too kind." Wei Hong waved his hand, and then seemed to remember something, and immediately said to Zhu Ming, "Dao Zhu, when you come here to collect spiritual rice next time, I hope you will be careful. I don't guarantee that the Cao family will be crazy and want to take it out on you, after all, you are too close to me." Zhu Ming smiled disdainfully and said, "Take it out on me? It's not that I look down on the Cao family, but even if they have 10 courage, they dare not attack me. Besides, I am the outer gate deacon of the Immortal City, and I have no grudges with the CAO family. If they dare to attack me, maybe the entire CAO family will be buried with me. Wei, there is no need to worry about this. By the way, I have already made an agreement with the higher-ups that I will be the one to collect the spiritual rice from the number 7 spiritual plant garden in the back. Fellow Taoist Wei, rest assured that I will never give the CAO family any chance to take advantage of me. Wei Hong felt relieved when he heard this, knowing that Zhu Ming had understood what he meant, so he immediately clasped his hands and said, "Haha, thank you very much. By the way, this bottle is this Hangayang pill, which I personally made. I will give it to you as a thank you gift. I hope you won't dislike it." After saying that, he took out a white jade bottle from his storage bag and placed it in front of Zhu Ming. After seeing it, Zhu Ming waved his hands and said, "Hey, this is absolutely not possible. Fellow Taoist Wei, I treat you as a close friend, what do you mean by this?" As he said this, he pretended to be displeased and glared at Wei Hong. Wei Hong didn't care at all. Instead, he smiled and said, "Don't refuse, fellow Taoist. Although we are good friends, I absolutely cannot let you work in vain. What's more, this bottle of elixir is made by me personally, not bought outside, and is not worth a few spirit stones. Just accept it with confidence. Can a bottle of elixir affect the friendship between you and me?" After hearing this, Zhu Ming gladly accepted it. "Then I will not be polite. It happens that I want to practice hard during this period of time." "That's perfect. If fellow Taoist Zhu needs elixir in the future, just bring the materials to me. I will help you make the elixir for free." In order to repay Zhu Ming's favor, Wei Hong also made a promise at this time. Chapter 700, Fake Dan Monk. Half an hour later, Wei Hong personally opened the formation and sent Zhu Ming out of the formation, and then returned to the secret room. Sitting on the golden silk cushion, he took out the jade slip purchased from the Xianji pavilion, directly pasted it between his eyebrows, and began to examine it carefully. Facing the threat of the CAO family, he dared not neglect it in the slightest. His spiritual consciousness entered the jade slip, and the contents recorded in it began to constantly emerge in Wei Hong's mind. After a full stick of incense, he slowly opened his eyes. After putting down the jade slip, Wei Hong couldn't help but sneer secretly. "Humph, you don't even have a Jinden stage cultivator, and you still have the nerve to call yourself a Jinden family. You really know how to gild your own face." He never thought that the CAO family, which was called a Jinden family, actually didn't have a real Jinden stage cultivator. This was obviously beyond his expectations. But such a piece of information also made Wei Hong breathe a sigh of relief. The jade slip recorded that the so-called Jinden family, the CAO family, actually had no Jinden cultivators in charge. The one with the highest cultivation level was CAO Jin, the ancestor of the CAO family, who had already reached the false elixir stage. The so-called false elixir stage was actually a special stage outside the 4 small stages of the foundation building stage. It was when a cultivator reached the great perfection of the foundation building stage and failed to break through to the Jinden stage, but did not fall down because of the failure of the breakthrough to the Jinden stage. Instead, a false elixir was formed in the body, making this cultivator similar to having formed an elixir, but not a real Jinden stage cultivator. This stage was called the false elixir stage. Fake elixir stage cultivators were usually only one step away from truly breaking through to the Jinden stage, but this step would often hold people back and prevent them from making any progress. Xiao Jin, the ancestor of the CAO family, was now stuck at this step and had not truly broken through to the Jinden stage. This was also the reason why he had been in seclusion for many years, in order to break through this last step, thereby completing the qualitative change of leaping over the Dragon Gate and leading the CAO family to become a real Jinden family. Compared with the peak foundation building cultivators, the fake elixir cultivators are undoubtedly much stronger, and have a hint of the strength and power of the golden elixir stage. Generally speaking, at least 3 or 4 peak foundation building cultivators are needed to hold off a fake elixir cultivator. Hey, no wonder they dare to call themselves the golden elixir family. Fake elixir is also elixir, so it's not bad to say so. Wei Hong smiled softly, not surprised by the CAO family's behavior. If they didn't do this, how could the CAO family's size be increased? However, Wei Hong secretly thought at this time, fortunately, since there are no real golden elixir cultivators, it is good news, and the ancestor of the CAO family has been in seclusion, and he will definitely not come out for such a small matter. Without a real golden elixir cultivator, even if he faces a peak foundation building cultivator, he is not without the possibility of escaping. Such news naturally made him breathe a sigh of relief. If the Xiao family really had a giant ancestor, then he should have considered how to escape, because there was no need for the Xiao family ancestor to take action personally. He only needed to inform Kangshan Immortal City, and Kangshan Immortal City would definitely not fall out with a giant cultivator for a mere third-grade outer sect deacon. At this moment, Wei Hong was very glad that he had purchased such information from Xianji Pavilion. If he collected it by himself, it was hard to say whether he could collect it all, and it would probably take a lot of time, and the effort would be completely disproportionate to the reward. Now, he only needed to spend 10 medium-grade spirit stones to get the detailed information directly in his hands. The real cultivation of the Xiao family ancestor suddenly reduced Wei Hong's pressure a lot. Then he continued to think, according to the information recorded in the Jade Slip, in addition to the Xiao family ancestor Xiao Jin who is in the Fake Dan period, the Xiao family also has 2 peak foundation building cultivators, one of whom is the current Xiao family patriarch Xiao Ying, and the other is his cousin, named Xiaoan. In addition, the Xiao family has 5 late-stage foundation building cultivators, and the Xiao Fen who came before is one of them. There are also 7 cultivators in the early and middle stages of the foundation building period, plus 14 guests in the early stage of the foundation building period. If you count it this way, the strength of the Xiao family is indeed not low. The information provided by the Xianji Pavilion is very detailed, recording all the important members of the Xiao family. There are also relatively detailed records of the more than 10 guests recruited by the Xiao family, which can make people understand the information at a glance. After reading the information about the Xiao family, Wei Hong couldn't help but feel a little gloomy in his heart. Although the ancestor of the Xiao family has been in seclusion for a long time and has not yet truly broken through to the Golden Core stage, this is the only good news, but the other foundation building cultivators of the Xiao family still put him under great psychological pressure. The foundation building cultivators of the Xiao family add up to nearly 30 people, which is definitely a considerable force within the sphere of influence of Kangshan Immortal City. And many of the family members of the Xiao family also practice in the Immortal City, and some of the family members have also become deacons of the Immortal City. The various interpersonal relationships are complicated, but very deep, and they are definitely not something I can provoke. When Wei Hong thought of the power of the Xiao family and their interpersonal relationships, he also felt a headache. There was no need to analyze it at all. With the current power of the Xiao family and those interpersonal relationships, it was definitely not something he could provoke. Therefore, the problem he should consider now is how to avoid their edge. Since we can't provoke them, we can only avoid them for the time being. Wei Hong frowned and thought to himself, this spiritual plant garden is my biggest protection. If I leave the spiritual plant garden, I may be in danger at any time, but if I stay in the spiritual plant garden, I will be safe. I don't have to worry about the threat from the Xiao family for the time being. At this moment, he was more determined to stay in the spiritual plant garden. As long as he didn't leave here, his life would not be in danger, but if he left the spiritual plant garden, he would most likely be retaliated by the Xiao family immediately, so Wei Hong would definitely not be able to leave in a short period of time. It's okay if I don't go out. I can practice in seclusion. Only when I become stronger can I really solve the mortal enemy of Xiao family. Wei Hong put his mentality in a good position, and then continued to think, not only should I practice in seclusion, but I should also improve the 3 skills of alchemy, talisman drawing and formation. All of them should be improved. Fortunately, I also bought a large number of materials. Next, I need to refine these materials into pills, or draw them into talismans and store them for emergency use or to deal with emergencies. As long as I act carefully, Xiao family will definitely not be able to do anything to me for the time being. Thinking about it, Wei Hong began to think about danger in times of peace. He already had a detailed plan for the next arrangement. Not only did he have to practice in seclusion, but he also had to refine pills to provide himself with assistance, and at the same time he had to draw various talismans and store them. These were all preparations to be made. After figuring out these things, Wei Hong began to act in the secret room. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.